Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather here in your presence to discuss the business of Henry County. Please bless us with the grace and guidance that we need to ensure that everyone has equal opportunity to speak and as we address your business tonight. Please bless the farmers that are feeding this nation and the men and women that are protecting it. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is the regular meeting of the Henry County Board of County Commissioners being held on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019 at 5 p.m. in the County Commission Chambers in LaBelle, Florida. In attendance are Chairman Mitchell Wills, Vice Chair Emma Byrd, Commissioner Darrell Harris, Commissioner Michael Swindle, Commissioner Carson Turner, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Mark Lapp, and Clerk Barbara Butler.
Thank you, ma'am. We have some guests with us tonight. Ms. Tornalone, thank you for being here tonight, Glades County. We also have a presentation tonight, Commissioner Turner.
That is correct.
If you would, please.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chair, Board, thank y'all so much for allowing this opportunity. As you all know, I commonly refer to myself as a half-breed because my daddy was from Glades County, my mom was from Hendry, and we have some of our younger brothers and sisters over from Glades County tonight. Ms. Rhymes and Mr. Cosby have put together a stellar group here. They're going to give us a little presentation. You all do want us to be critical of you. We're going to have an exchange afterwards. Is that correct? All right. And this is for them to qualify for a state competition. And I think you guys are going to get a lot. Let me rephrase that. I know you're going to get a lot out of this presentation. So we'll let y'all take it from here.
Okay. So the group's going to come up. Can I take y'all seats?
I knew we were going to get
Absolutely.
jacked.
They are going to have you leave your location. Now they are officially going to be the ones voting. I want to give everybody a little pre-information before we get started. The competition they're in is actually called Ag Issues, where they take either an environmental issue or an issue in agriculture itself, and they address this issue. Now, the higher and more creative they are with the situation, the better it is. They could either do this forum as a debate. They could do this forum as, any way they took it. It's really kind of open for how they decided to handle it. We decided to do ours as basically kind of a forum where they interact with different roles of people that this actually affects. So these are the stakeholders in what we call the water quality crisis, and a lot of you see on the news about the water quality in South Florida. So this is going to be your panel. They're going to go over everything, and they're going to cover a lot of information. The slideshow is going to go over the key points that they're going to cover as they're speaking. And yes, we do want you to be critical. If you see something or you know something that we might not be aware of, please tell us before we get to the end. Because every time we go to these, we get asked some really complex questions, and they're not going to know the answer to every single one of them. But our goal is to build this bank before we get to the end so that they are prepared with any type of question that could possibly come their way. And you are going to have varying points of view. You do have an environmentalist. You have a Sanibel Island resident. You have cane farmers. So they're all playing these roles. So you kind of get to see everybody's side of how they feel about the water quality. So Ms. Davis is going to be the person introducing this to you.
Okay, so tonight's topic of discussion is flood and flood. We will be discussing water quality issues facing farmers, residents, and business owners in South Florida. Water quality in South Florida is in peril with solutions such as regulations on farmers and sending water south into the Everglades to help regain water and ecosystem stability. What are the pros and cons to the solutions, and what other factors are adding to the South Florida water crisis? There are two solutions to the problem. Solution one is sending the water south. The pro to this solution is it reduces low-quality water, fresh water, from the lake entering into the estuaries on both the east and west coasts. And the cons are sending low-quality water south into the Everglades will destroy the ecosystem that taxpayers have already spent billions to repair, and federal laws will have to be violated that protect wading birds and their eggs. The eggs and nests of these birds would be washed away with the unloading of the excess water. Solution number two is regulations and standards. The pro to this solution is regulations have worked in reducing runoff in the EAA area from entering into the waterways, and coastal communities are implementing ordinances. The cons are cost of farming increase, but an actual total of implementation has not been established. And nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers can still be bought by homeowners who do not always follow the DEP mandates. The county assumes they will follow them, but there is not enough manpower to enforce that law.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Save Our Waters Rally. This is a special event that brings together top advocates for water quality and saving the water, both the Caloosahatchee and Lake Okeechobee. On our panel, we have Reese Davis and Carrie Hines, sugarcane farmers in the EAA, Rosemary Rubio, hotel manager on Fort Myers Beach, Camden Rhymes, resident of Sanibel Island, Hannah Moss, environmentalist and conservationist, and myself as the mediator, Bryant Williams, representative for South Florida Water Management. We will begin this rally with our sugarcane farmer, Ms. Reese Davis, will discuss regulations placed upon and followed by the sugar industry to help reduce phosphorus runoff that's said to cause algae blooms that are having devastating effects on coastal regions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We have read the newspapers and seen the images that have been blasted across every news outlet in South Florida. And with claims made and inaccurate data, I'm glad the farmers are able to sit beside others with opposing views and share our side of the story as well as listen to their concerns. First, I want to address what it means to be a farmer in the EAA area. The EAA area is composed of 700,000 acres of farmland. It is south of Lake Okeechobee and a large part of the northern Everglades. The major crop grown in this region is sugarcane, but during winter, vegetables are grown. Sugarcane farmers have been blamed for polluting the Everglades, causing red tide, or even Sahara dust, but many do not realize that better farming practices have been implemented. Laws require a 25% decrease in phosphorus reduction annually, but they have exceeded the requirement by more than twice what is legally required for the past 20 years. Farmers fully understand the effects that both nitrogen and phosphorus cause to the environment. To my coastal residents and business owners, I asked you, like farmers following regulations, what has been done in your counties to reduce runoff from golf courses and highways, boat traffic, and outdated septic systems? The Caloosahatchee River runs 38 miles from Hendry to Lee County. That does not include the 52 miles of creeks and feeder rivers that branch throughout Lee County. Do you, Ms. Rhymes and Ms. Rubio, believe that no pollution occurs on your part?
Ms. Davis, Lee County Commissioners have passed an Ordinance 0808 which addresses the use and application of fertilizers that contain both phosphorus and nitrogen. We also, as a county, must meet federal and state mandated water quality standards to minimize the negative environmental effects that are happening on Lee County's lakes, estuaries, canals, freshwater wetlands, and the Caloosahatchee River. So to answer your question, yes, we do have ordinances put in place to reduce runoff from our business and homes.
Ms. Davis, I have lived in Sanibel for the past 20 years, and I've never seen the quality of water this bad. The algae blooms are taking over our canals and making our life on the coastal region unbearable. I believe that in order to save our beaches and estuaries, we need to send the water back south to its historical flow. You can see in these photos the devastation these algae blooms are causing in our area. And remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. We want the water fixed, and we are tired of the sugar industry lobbying in Tallahassee to have laws and regulations go their way. $58 million spent in campaign funds. Send it south where it's meant to be, Ms. Davis. Slow the flow.
Ms. Rhymes, what you said about the historical flow is only partially correct. For one to state that they want the water returned to original flow, one must completely understand what that means. A connection between the Atlantic to Gulf would not exist. In 1929, the original flow of water was altered. The Army Corps dug east of the St. Lucie River, west of the Caloosahatchee, and named the new 155-mile channel the Okeechobee Waterway. The Caloosahatchee, historically never connected to the Gulf, is altered by the government. A map from 1862, known as the Florida Military Map, shows what the waterways in Florida looked like before farming and urban development. From this map, we can establish that the historical flow can never be completely corrected. As far as sending water south, there are federal regulations that cause this to be an issue and not an easy solution to our water quality problem. Ms. Moss can actually address the reasons sending water south, like suggested by Ms. Rhymes and Ms. Rubio, is not a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I would like to address why sending water south is an issue. Sending water from the lake south and not balancing the flow east, west, and south will flood the habitats of wading birds that are located and call the EAA area home. The Migratory Bird Act protects nesting birds under federal law and is separate but in addition to the Endangered Species Act. Cape Sable seaside sparrows, stilt, and kite lay their nest in marsh grass. High levels of water wash away nest and eggs. This prevents storm water being sent south during the rainy season. It goes west to the Gulf through the Caloosahatchee and east to the Atlantic via the St. Lucie River. The United States Fish and Wildlife cannot give South Florida Water Management to move large amounts of water or raise level past a certain point that can endanger nest or eggs. This would be a violation of federal law, as Mr. Williams has stated previously.
Ms. Moss is correct. Water management cannot receive permission except from the federal government to pump water over a protected area that could and will destroy protected species habitat. Currently, the Sparrow restricts the operations of the S12A and S12B from one in November to July, the other January to July.
If we send the water south like its original flow, that means we are sending dirty water south. We will then in turn kill the Everglades, and shallow water is needed for marshes to grow and filter the water before it enters the Everglades, Biscayne Bay, and Atlantic Ocean, and the Gulf water south. The dirty water comes north into the lake and leaves the lake cleaner than it was initially received. Sugar is not the villain immediately leads those to believe. The Everglades is being restored. We must focus on the pollution. It's north. Slow the flow is right, Ms. Rhymes and Ms. Rubio. Slow the flow from the north. Let Osceola and Orange County keep their dirty water from our lake. Initially, I understand that poor dairy practices polluted the water from the north in the 1950s and 1970s. During that time, 49 milking barns with over 50,000 dairy cows called the Lower River Kissimmee Basin home. The LKB is the connection point of the Kissimmee River to Lake Okeechobee. During this time period, animal waste management was almost non-existent until the use of BMPs on dairy farms started in the 1970s. It was estimated that 59% of the phosphorus entering the lake was from dairy farms' animal waste. Now the reduction in the amount of dairy farms to that half of the amount of the implementation of BMPs, we should have seen a reduction in the phosphorus inflow into the lake. But that is actually the opposite. In 1987, 562 metric tons went into the lake. Fast forward to now, 609 tons. It has actually increased. More storage to the north is necessary, and remeandering the Kissimmee River is a step in the right direction. The blame game is one-sided in this issue. Sugar is sweet on everyone's tongue to be blamed first. But cattle and citrus call the Kissimmee River Basin home, and let's not forget the house that the mouse built, which brings in more than 60 million visitors to the Orlando area. Mr. Williams, can you address my concern that the issue is in the north to slow the flow?
Ms. Davis, I'll be happy to answer your question. Ongoing efforts in the north are happening to help improve water quality. The first project I'll address is the Kissimmee River Restoration. This is a $615 million project that's almost complete. This will add temporary storage during the rainy season, which will reduce nutrient loads from entering the lake. We also have STAs, or storm treatment areas, in Taylor Creek, Lakeside Ranch, and Brady Ranch in the process of being built or built. We also have invested $2 billion into the Indian River Lagoon SERP project. This project includes a C-44 reservoir and STA. 80,000 acres is also going to be used for natural storage. So, Ms. Davis, you can see taxpayers' dollars are being unloaded to help fix this man-made disaster. Ms. Moss can supply us with more information about the impact this poor water quality has on the Everglades and why many people view the unloading of massive amounts of water south as a major concern for her as environmentalists.
I am glad Mr. Williams addressed the North Flow water quality. My issue with sending the water south is not just to protect birds, but an entire ecosystem. We definitely do not want to see water unloaded from the lake and sent to an ecosystem that is on the verge of regaining stability. The Everglades restoration to date has cost the state of Florida $1.8 billion, federal $938 million, and in 2013, $880 million was allocated and approved to continue efforts to save the glades. Taxpayers have spent billions to restore the Everglades, and regulations placed have worked. We should think of Lake Okeechobee as a heart. If the heart is sick, the entire body can fail. The lake is sick. We must focus on how to repair it. The lake feeds the Everglades. We have begun to fix the Everglades. Now we must focus on the lake. Ideally, restoration should have happened north, then moved south. But we decided to work backwards and fix the Everglades first. But now we have a new issue. The north is polluting the lake, and the lake is in turn polluting the east and west with its water discharges.
Thank you, Ms. Moss, for bringing us back to the poor water quality of the lake water. I would like to bring light to a recent study by Florida Atlantic University. This study showed that the algae bloom in the St. Lucie estuary, despite blame, was found to be caused by human wastewater. Test results showed artificial sweetener. This human wastewater caused a decline in water quality and an ecological dysfunction to the estuary and downstream reefs.
Focusing on the lake is vital, especially to those of us that live in coastal areas to the west. The fact is the water quality is way below a level that is considered acceptable. This has impacted tourism to South Florida beaches in a negative way and has destroyed some long-time business. Lee County's Tourist Development Council gave recent totals that show the impact poor water quality and algae are having on our county. Preliminary total for the August bed tax reached just over 1.44 million, down 16.44% in August 2017. July's preliminary collection total just a bit above 2.67 million for a 2.2% decline in July 2017. Green algae has become a headache to those trying to survive off the tourism industry and is making people that live here sick.
I'm sure everyone is familiar with the blue-green algae that are affecting our waterways. This specific algae should not be confused with red tide. They are two totally different issues. These blooms are year-round but appear more in summer due to the warm water temperatures. The blooms are non-toxic, cause death in marine life due to the fact they remove oxygen from the water. The Florida Atlantic University is currently conducting a study that will show if human health is adversely affected and can long-term illness occur. The growth is caused by an overabundant amount of nutrients in the water. This is why many environmental groups believe that the state's phosphorus reduction standard of 25% was intentionally set too low, making it easier for the influential sugar to meet the water pollution cleanup rule. This is Ms. Rhymes' concern. Did lobbying affect regulations and help make this problem worse?
The Sun Sentinel reported in 2016 that there were 2 farmers in the EA region that were farming on state land and missing their targeted cleanup goal. It was 2 sections totaling 1,200 acres, and 1 section showed a 210% increase in phosphorus over a 5-year period, while the other land section averaged a 141% increase of phosphorus. Taxpayers' land polluting taxpayers' waters doesn't seem correct to me. How does it sound to you, Ms. Moss, as a conservationist?
I agree with the point you have mentioned, Ms. Rhymes. Farmers on state land paid for by taxpayers should be held to a higher cleanup standard. They are using state land with low lease rates, make a profit to dump excess amounts of phosphorus into the Everglades where taxpayers spend billions to restore.
I will first address Ms. Rubio's concern. I agree that you did have a decline in sales for August, but your Tourism Council also claimed a fiscal year increase that began in October 2017 had topped $40.6 million by August of this year for a 6.8% year-over-year gain. So the financial impact of poor water quality has a shaky base as an argument to blame farmers for destroying businesses and livelihoods. Ms. Rhymes and Ms. Moss both addressed their concern about individual farmers not meeting the standards set for phosphorus output. The way the state has designed the phosphorus reduction and cleanup, phosphorus is measured in regions, not by individual farms. So those farmers individually did not utilize the BMPs in place to reduce their runoff. But the region in which they exist did in fact meet the standard. A report released by South Florida Water Management in 2014 showed that using BMPs in the EAA produced a 63% decrease in phosphorus runoff. I would also like to add that for 19 consecutive years, water leaving farmlands in the EAA reduced the amount by 55%, doubling what was asked and expected.
As for Ms. Moss's concern, stating that the standard was set too low, the amount was nearly its target, one which the farmers exceeded the standard set by the Everglades Restoration Act, therefore proving that farmers are the true stewards of the land and the problem is not what is coming out of the lake to the east, west, and south. The combination of BMPs and storm treatment areas has made huge gains in improving the water quality. It's the level of phosphorus coming into the lake from the north. Examples of best management practices that are used in the EAA are field leveling to reduce soil erosion into canals, berms alongside of canals in fields to prevent runoff, and sediment traps, which are built upstream and collect 76% of sediment before leaving the farmland. Many farms clean and maintain canals from biological growth that contributes to phosphorus. They will also make sure the water drains slowly off their farms and allow it time to filter and sediment to be removed.
Ms. Davis mentioned earlier about STAs or storm treatment areas and how they have assisted in the reduction of phosphorus. STAs are a network of 5 areas south of the lake. They consist of 57,000 acres. Last year, those STAs treated 1.3 million acre-feet of water, retaining 81% of phosphorus. Reports in 2014 show that combined with better management practices in STAs, 4,582 metric tons of phosphorus from entering the Everglades.
By Mr. Williams explaining the effectiveness of both STAs and BMPs, many people should begin to realize that this formula used in the EAA region is effective in solving the water quality. Farmers will accept their part in the water quality issue, but would like to have others accept their roles, such as development and overpopulation of Florida. We also need to focus on the North Water, where 85 parts per billion of total phosphorus is in the water.
That concludes our meeting. Thank you for joining us.
All right, so does anybody have any questions for them? Or they are times, how we do? 15:37. No, the 15 max.
15 max.
That's all it says, 15 max.
Okay.
You might get some of their text edited and cut some seconds off.
Yes.
And-
Yeah, so last night we were like 15.6, and now we're down to 15.3.
But you can't be over 15?
We cannot be over 15.
It's probably damaging if you're over 15.
It takes
Bad.
automatically 10 points off the top.
I've got an old script, I guess, because some of that is not on.
Yes, we've already cut. We've had to
Okay.
do more slicing.
They read some things that were not on.
Yeah.
Scripts I have.
Yeah, so we had to add, we've reduced, a lot of people have asked questions that we didn't
Yeah.
touch on, so we've put stuff back in and we've taken stuff out. So we've, everybody, when we get in the car, they're like, do you have the right one? And I'm like, well, I hope y'all do, because it just after every time we go home, we change it. Because we do have a lot of people that ask us questions, and then once we think about it, we're like, well, that's actually more important than something else we might have said. So we
Yeah.
kind of reverse back and we kind of replace and chop and.
So I would like to say this, what a phenomenal job. Out of everything we hear about our school systems and what's bad, what's not going good, what a great example of what the youth can do and a powerful voice that we can have. So congratulations to all of you for what you're doing.
Great.
I've known Mr. Cosby back when we both had full heads of hair. And so, there's a couple things I would like to say. Number one, just as a quick critique, I would say be very careful about using acronyms. What's a BMP? Y'all said it several times, but I never heard you say what it was.
Wait. So, who knows what a BMP is? Raise all your hands. Okay, one in the middle. What's a BMP? None of y'all can help her. What's a BMP?
It's you, Rosemary. He's
Oh, best management practices.
That's right. And can you give us an example? Because there's the questions at the end, right? They do have the answer for questions. Can you give us an
There, you
example
can
of
give the
BMP?
examples.
Do you want it from me or from Rosemary?
So let's have it. I don't care.
Y'all can cheat and get together.
And here I stated
You stated three, but can all of y'all do it? Because if they're gonna hammer you on this, everybody's gotta be able to speak to this right off the hip. Anna Moss, you gotta know what a BMP is, right? What's a BMP? Give an example.
Don't you say something about berms or?
Yep, birds.
Yeah.
Sediment traps.
Sediment traps, yeah.
Field leveling.
Field
It says, like,
leveling.
one thing, we're not really sure if they're gonna target them as their roles, of like,
They're always a
well,
target.
yeah.
I prepare for everything.
You would prepare for
I would
everything.
prepare for that too. On there, CERP. I don't know what that is.
I do. What is it? Come on, somebody tell us.
We
I know what it is.
actually do you do it?
I have it right here.
Yeah,
I have it right here.
look.
No, I have it right here. Okay, it's comprehensive.
Spelled postal wrong.
Huh?
You can go ahead.
Oh, it's comprehensive Everglades restoration plan.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and it's older than you all are. That's legitimate. It's older than you all are, but it's essential that you know what that is. Because when someone from a different community starts to position their argument against your argument, and then they start dropping the jargon, if you don't have the ability to go toe-to-toe for them, then they win the argument right off the get. Okay? So you guys know that. What about an STA? Hannah, what's an STA?
Storm treatment area.
That's storm, so you left that one key aspect, storm water treatment area, okay? But that's something this is loaded, and I shouldn't say it this way, but I'm not a very good politician. But an environmentalist will tell you a stormwater treatment area is this most beautiful, pristine environment that's been around, once again, longer than you all are in age. The fact is that you pointed out 57,000 acres of STAs exist today. 57,000 acres of land that were in production are now stormwater treatment areas. So that's land that our mamas and daddies and grandmas and grandpas were all working on and turning $1 that are now taken out of production to clean water so that 21.8 million people have cleaner water. They don't take that into consideration. And y'all drove home a lot of those facts today. So I got to echo what Commissioner Swindle said. An incredible job, but know those facts inside and out. And be able to have role reversals with each other, and you speak to your issue, and you speak to his issue or her issue, so on and so forth.
And I would like to, Rosemary totally memorized her entire part. that jumped out at me. And y'all are more powerful when you do that, by the way. So I would say that the more of course, when you get your script where you want it, and then make sure that you know word for word, inside and out. And I would challenge you to go back and look at some of our meetings. Once you know what you need to say, I would practice using the power of persuasive speaking when you do it. Commissioner Turner's a good example of that. It don't matter if you're talking about code enforcement or a monkey. He can make sure that he uses the power of his, from any stance. Bring the power of persuasion. When you read it, although you read well and it's good content, I think it takes away a little bit from where if you had it memorized and you really drove home facts and you really sat up in your seat when it come to the point you wanted to make, I think that y'all would be a lot more powerful.
And I don't know how you add this in there, but you spoke about red tide. And so many times idiots don't understand that red tide was discussed by the Spanish coming over. You all know that, I bet, right? Do y'all know that? Yes or no? Don't lie, just be honest. Think about that, guys. Think about that. In Spanish Guyana, when they're off the coast of the west coast of Florida, they talked about running into rafts of dead fish or huge areas, huge acreages on the Gulf of Mexico where dead fish were up and floating. And that's way offshore. So red tide starts in 40 foot of water, and off prevailing tides and winds, it comes inshore and it kills everything in its path, right? I'm not saying you got to put all of that in there, but I think that it's so powerful. If you can speak of Cape Brevis and red tide and its existence back in the 14th century, okay, and how we're trying to blame that on an agricultural existence. You know, I don't know how many thousands of people were living on this peninsula back in the 14th century, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't 21.8 million people, and red tide was still showing up then. So keep that in mind.
No, overall, fantastic job. And you know, what Commissioner Swindle was talking about, there was a passion of it. You're very passionate about what you're discussing. And that's what, you know, Commissioner Turner brings. He's very passionate, as you can tell. So when you bring it to the board and notice the same thing, he was looking straight ahead, he was focused, and it was very good. So that's overall, amazing job. Y'all done a fantastic
Thank you, thank you.
I would say a great job, great job. You gave me information that I didn't.
She kept asking questions that I couldn't answer.
What's the competition? We have to submit everything by May 1st, and then we'll be notified, and we compete June 10th or 11th.
June 11th.
June 11th. Please report back. And the Creek Royale in Orlando. Awesome.
Good luck, y'all.
Yes, sir.
One thing I didn't hear was a lot about the level of the water. I didn't hear a lot about that. So just, you know.
Yeah, and that's been like a lot of things. A lot of people tell us, like, when we go, oh, we'll add this, and it's kind of like, we're kind of at the point now, we can't really.
15 minutes or 15?
Yeah, it's like 15, it's such a broad topic, and it's kind of like, you know, we tried to cover as much as we could so they would understand what we were speaking about, but also we couldn't get too lengthy because 15 minutes is all we get.
Do you get your points lower if you go less than 15?
It doesn't, you just can't, you get the points taken away if you go. And I'm sure if you go like 10 minutes, then I'm probably thinking that some of that content that probably the Mordecai's presentation would go.
If your theme is slow to flow, I think you need to somehow get that a little more focused in everything you're saying.
Fantastic job.
Y'all stay up there. We're gonna get in front of y'all. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come in.
Thank you.
Yeah, y'all have to stand up. They ain't gonna be able to see y'all. Why don't the board go behind them? Why don't y'all let them go behind them?
Can you see him?
No, good, not good.
Or we need to move?
Alright.
I don't buy iPhones.
There we go. Alright, 1, 2, 3.
Should we go behind them too? real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move behind them.
We can have it.
We gonna sit for this one.
I was already smiling.
Somebody should cause got a work phone.
Thank you guys for letting us take your time.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was great. They did good.
Thank you.
Oh, this one?
All right, so there's, I need your signature because we have the same.
You started at the beginning of the school year. Guys, for letting us
Thank you.
That'll be good. Good job, you guys. Be well. Can't believe those kids are as old as they are now. I think your babies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, somewhat persuasive speaking out.
Who?
I can remember when a few of them were born.
I remember. Yeah, man, I remember Hannah was a teacher.
I've got the right stack. I've worked enough time to keep straight as it is.
No one had anything to pull, we're ready for consent, right?
Ready to roll.
What I'll do with it.
Thank you, Commissioner Turner. That's awesome.
Thank y'all for doing that. That was great. I told Jennifer about 7 minutes before our meeting, so.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we'll bring us to the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Front and back throws me off. I'm gonna take Tracy an extra pack of paper so I can go to just one side. Okay, it's gonna bring us down to awards and appearances, nothing this month, but under public hearings. We have under A, interlocal agreements with the city of LaBelle and Clewiston, distribution of the 2% sales tax.
Oh, that one.
I will be handling the first two public hearings, and they are for, we are required every 2 years to have a public hearing for the interlocal agreements with the city of LaBelle, city of 2 cent, and also the 6 cent fuel tax. And so the city of LaBelle has replied back, and they have no issue in leaving it the same. That is the recommendation. The city of Clewiston, however, they have no current objection. However, they haven't, with their transition, I was working with the interim city manager, and now I'm working with Ms. Howell. Once she was made aware of it, they haven't been able to meet. So while they have no objection, they are going to bring it up at their next meeting. And I talked to the county attorney. He said we could go ahead and you do not have to make a motion tonight, but it is a public hearing. If anybody wants to speak, and then if there's an issue with the city of Clewiston, we will bring it back to you.
Do you need one for LaBelle or just do them both next time?
We'll have our public hearings tonight, and there's no motion to be made. And then if there's any
Revisit
issue.
at a later date.
Okay.
Right. Okay, this is a public hearing of the public. Was anyone with the public like to address this tonight? The topic is interlocal agreements with the city of LaBelle and Clewiston with the 2% fuel cells and the 6% fuel cell. Is there anyone who would like to speak to that tonight? No one? Okay, so there's no action required. We'll just move on down to C, which is petition VA 119-0001.
Good evening, Commissioners. One of the takeaways I got from that presentation was that I need to be more enthusiastic about my presentation. So I'm going to try my best on that. Practice.
Can we critique you as well? All right.
They do every commission meeting, don't they?
Yes. This first public hearing agenda item from my department is a variance.
Love Margaret.
A variance request. The applicant is requesting a variance, rear setback variance to allow a 1.5-foot.
Mr. Chair, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, now it's on.
Thank
I don't have to yell.
I'd like to entertain a motion to,
Are you making a motion?
yes,
I'll second your motion, sir.
19-0001.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. This is also a hearing of the public. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak about this? Seeing none. Is there any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Moving to D.
Yes.
RZ 16-0001.
Yes. This is a request to rezone 3 parcels from general commercial, convenience commercial, and residential high-density mobile home
Ms.
to,
Emmons, who is the commissioner? Is this you, Commissioner?
That's my district.
Commissioner Wills, do you have any, is there a bunch of fallout? I've heard nothing.
I've heard nothing in the negative about this at all.
Yep, and I think y'all are just, I mean, you're wanting to get this moving in a forward direction of what they're wanting to do out there, correct?
yes, sir.
It's nowhere near houses. There's no houses around it. Is there?
a couple of
There's probably
trailers.
49 there, right?
Yeah.
Nearby, there is.
Yeah.
But they'll be required to provide buffering and, they'll be, when they come in for a site development plan, we'll review some of those compatibility concerns you might have.
Mr. Chair, is Commissioner Harris going to ask this question?
Yes.
It should be about oak trees if she said buffering.
No,
No, wait, what's going on here? Okay.
I moved to, on RZ 16-0001.
I second your motion.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. This is also a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this in the public? Tough crowd tonight.
Yes.
Any further from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Emmons.
Thank you. All right, this next agenda item is a public hearing for rezoning for two parcels that are located on North Bridge Street. The request is to rezone from convenience commercial to high-intensity commercial. The proposed use, or I should say the existing use, is for a boat sales and repair shop.
That's the existing use.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, ma'am.
existing use and what is, will continue to be
gonna
utilized for.
Yeah, I
It's gonna
moved
be a bigger
to, I moved for petition RZ 19-002 to accept.
I'm okay with it. It's good. Your presentation sold me.
It's right around the curve.
A second.
It's-
A motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Byrd. This is also a public hearing. Anyone in the public like to speak to this? Seeing none. Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. This next agenda item is a public hearing for transmittal of a proposed comprehensive future land use map amendment that would change the subject property from agriculture to industrial. And I'm happy to further describe the proposal if you would like. The property is located on County Road 835, and it's immediately south of an existing industrial property.
Wait.
And-
We're-
yes.
Are we at G or H?
F.
F, okay.
If-
This is,
Just south of the
Yeah.
Ontio plant, correct?
so this
Yes.
is, actually, it's south of that as well.
Yes.
This is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a discussion on the property that is even south of what is the giant parking lot today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And so the reason why all of that land was able to be developed in the manner that it was is because we had rezoned that through the weekly industrial process.
That's correct.
Okay, and so now, is this the same company?
I
we able to
don't,
speak
I
to that?
can't
I don't
answer
know.
that. I don't know
Okay.
for sure if it's the same company or
All right.
not.
But clearly, there's a transaction that's occurring, or has occurred.
Has occurred.
And are they anticipating doing the same thing of what has occurred?
That's my understanding, but the applicant's agents are here, and
Okay.
they may be able to speak better to what
That would be
their
great.
client is.
Go ahead and come on up if you would.
Chris just left me hanging tonight. Hi, I'm Summer Foster with Johnson Pruitt representing the applicant tonight. The applicant is BHT Properties. It is the same applicant that developed the weekly, what we call the weekly site, which is to the north as you described. The intent right now is to do a similar use on the property with the car storage.
And they own nothing, Ms. Foster, on the east side of 835, right? It's all south.
They don't even own it. They're going through this process with the owner.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's all I needed to know. I make a motion to approve. Yep.
Second the motion?
Got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Swindle.
If I may
This is-
correct, the motion should be to transmit.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, transmit to the state agencies,
Second
yes.
that motion as well.
Okay. This is also a hearing of the public. Does anyone in the public would like to speak to this? Seeing none, any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Commissioners, this next public hearing is a rezoning of the State Road 82 mixed-use development to a detailed specific area plan. The property is within the Southwest Henry Sector Plan. You did approve a comprehensive plan amendment related to this proposal that established their entitlements, specifically that is now in the comprehensive plan. And this would be appropriate for you to conduct a public hearing and to approve the detailed specific area plan rezoning.
Do you have any problem with this, Commissioner Wells?
I haven't heard anything down there. This is on, this was, what kind of impact, I guess the question would be, I haven't heard anything about it. What kind of impact is this going to be on Church Road, if any?
Well, that was analyzed through the process. We had worked with Lee County and FDOT.
Just some of the stuff we were discussing the other day.
Yes,
Okay.
and we have resolved all the issues with FDOT. I actually got a phone call from Lee County today saying that they didn't have an issue after seeing the language we've included in the proposed ordinance.
Good enough. I knew we spoke to this the other day. No, sir, I think we're good.
Okay, and make a motion to request the amendment to the Henry County Code of Ordinance and transmit to the district. Is that right?
No, sir, this would be to approve the rezoning to the detailed specific area
Do
plan.
you have to transmit it?
Don't transmit. This is
Okay.
actually like a rezoning, like you did
Okay.
for the boat sales.
Just rezone,
We're
okay.
going from PUD to DSAP.
Gotcha.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We got a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to this? Seeing none. Any further discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You'd have been much more comfortable in your sneakers. Just saying.
But they weren't clean enough, otherwise I would have left them on.
You're still
So, here we are at the last public hearing for this evening, and it is the first reading of an amendment to our Land Development Code of Ordinances, and this is related to the Wheeler Estates changes that you've already seen the comp plan amendment request that was transmitted. This will be the first reading, and the second reading being the adoption will be brought to you with the comprehensive plan and a rezoning to be approved on May 28th.
So Commissioner Wills,
Yeah,
you
this-
feel that this process has taken into consideration a lot of the constituents that are in that community specific? They've had a soundboard with the county. You all have implemented some of the desires, wishes, hopes, and dreams of that community. And as we move this process forward, you feel that this is the first of its kind, really, in us taking into constituents' concept and moving forward with their community being what they want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Staff has done an amazing job with the community. The community's been very involved. Of all the meetings we've had no less than 30 to 35 in each meeting. So they've been very involved in the process. They've voiced their opinions. Staff has brought these opinions to life, and it's the first step in getting things done out there. I'm not saying anything about the road tonight, Shane, but it's one of the first steps in getting things done out there. So I believe it's going to be a plus for the community. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
So has this one already been transmitted, or does it have to be transmitted?
This is just the first
This first
reading.
hearing.
Okay.
It's a two-step process for this particular procedure, and your adoption would occur at the May 28th meeting, so you don't have to make a motion at this point.
Okay. That's
Any
good.
questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Emily.
Thank you.
But you do solicit public input, if any. You do.
Public hearing, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Lapp. Anyone like to speak to this? They don't want to speak tonight. Thank you so much. All right, moving forward. Under FYI, you guys, everyone's seen that, the correspondence. We do got a proclamation under there. Was that made, Mr. Parker, or for the Public Works? Did we do anything on that, National Public Works Week? Did we do that proclamation? I just seen it under FYI. That's a little pat on the back here since I'm picking on you, so.
Yes, sir. For the record, Shane Parker, Public Works Director. Sorry, Ms. Butler. It's in there, FYI, just asking the board to approve that proclamation. Don't need to read it.
So
Like,
moved.
you know, they're doing a barbecue.
Just want everybody to be aware of it, that's all.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Turner,
Second.
second by Commissioner Harris. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Staff reports. Ms. Emlich, we're back to you.
Commissioners, in an effort to improve our economic development situation, we are proposing to lower more fees, the planning and zoning fees. What we're proposing would be to lower the large-scale comprehensive map, land use map amendments from 3,000 to 2,000, and the small-scale comprehensive plan land use map amendment to 1,500. And then also the administrative waiver process, we're requesting to lower that fee from 500 to 150.
I think it's a great idea.
Any questions regarding those?
Do you think this will really make a difference?
I think that it will make a difference. In talking with folks when we talk about fees, their biggest cost really is with the application requirements, which we can't really, I guess, minimize too much because some of it is required for comprehensive plans are state requirements that you have to provide this full amount of information on our applications. But it's one of those, every little bit will help for those comp plan amendments. And with the administrative waiver, the process is really similar to other more administrative reviews that we have, and so I felt that we should make the fee commensurate with those.
Just out of curiosity, Ms. Emlich, how did you arrive at these figures?
I did not do a cost estimate review like we've done in the past with other jurisdictions, but they are lower than most other jurisdictions.
So
Here's how we arrived at that number. So did you just?
I'm sorry, it was not a scientific or a.
Okay. Good enough.
Are you saying these are lower than, say, Okeechobee, DeSoto, Harvey?
Well, I didn't look at all of those, but they are lower than some. But I can't tell you off the top of my head what they are.
Well, I applaud the fact that this has been going on for years. That, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, y'all did a major cost
Yes.
restructuring, and so this is an ongoing effort to make Henry business friendly,
Right.
Doing what we can to keep the doors open, and I get that. So and I
Right.
appreciate you doing it.
Well, and if I may, I know this is a little off track a little bit, but we get calls all the time from folks that are looking for, buying property or, building a home or looking at being able to establish a business. And one of the things that we talk about that is really important for them at this point is what we offer, and that's no impact fees. But as you spoke about earlier, the other, I'll say, obstacle of sorts is our lack of infrastructure. So, Commissioner Turner, you were right on with making that a priority. I know it's always been, and I don't think it was purposely left off of the list, but we really do need to get our arms around that and fix it, basically.
When
Well,
do we
I did see
draw?
in the back that most of the smaller counties do not have impact fees. In the charts that you provided,
Yes.
I did see that that's.
There's
that's
some of
to a
them-
different portion.
Yes.
We did in Henry up until what, 20 or so years
It
ago?
was 09,
No,
is that
no,
what it was?
impact fees?
Yeah.
No, we had impact fees as recently as 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
it wasn't very long.
I think it was 09 is what I was reading in this report in the back.
And I remember, I wasn't on the commission, but I was dutifully trying to get on the board, and I want to say they gave over 150,000 back to a couple developers. And I was disgusted by that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think back, I mean, because there was a hard check that we actually cut out of our, I mean, you know, they had paid into impact fees, and then we stroked the check back to said they.
Yeah, yeah. I
And, you
think,
know-
at some point in time, we're going to need to reengage that conversation, especially if.
The
things-
schools, you know,
Yes.
as we move forward, we definitely have to talk about that from a school's perspective.
Well, and maybe sooner rather
Agreed.
than later, depending on how things go with AIA over the next handful of months.
Yes.
So,
And, you know, talking about the other counties that have suspended their impact fees, one of the, I know it's the next agenda item, but one of the reasons that we need to continue to have that benefit for folks is because a lot of the folks that are inquiring about Hendry County that I speak with are coming from the East Coast and the West Coast. So it's not, comparing us to Okeechobee and Glades and so on is not really part of the discussion here. It's really where they're coming from.
Right.
And it makes a big difference for
east,
them.
west, and south.
Well, and that is proportionate, but the key to remember there also is, if we jump out and start charging a large amount for impact fees, Glades County's right across the line, I'd live there in a heartbeat.
Oh, that's
So
what a
we
lot
just
of
need to
people
make sure
say.
We're not Collier County, we don't have the beaches, and that's what everyone, we need to keep in mind. We're not just all of a sudden, somebody's gonna say, well, there's Hendry County. We have a lot of assets here that we are not marketing the way we need to.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to start trying to sell ourselves with a blue light special.
Yes.
We need to be, I want to say family-free, or, you know, where they
Oriented.
feel like they can come in, and, because we don't have the infrastructure, and to take some of the fees off of that kind of takes the weight off of it just a little bit. Not a lot, but it'd be nice if
Right.
we did have the infrastructure, so.
Yes.
And thank you for putting this together, Ms. Simmons. We appreciate you. Everything that we do to help the constituents is a plus.
But I just want to add, I mean, Ms. Byrd, Commissioner Byrd, you bring up the point of we need to be family friendly, and I think that I would love to have a demographic analysis performed and look at the shifting demographics, look at that income earning age and how much we're losing that segment of the population, how much other counties in rural Florida are gaining that segment of the population. And by the way, I'm speaking anecdotally. I'm not basing this off of hard data. But I think if you also look at hard data of national franchises and the offshoot economies associated with that, an example being a Wells Fargo moving to Clewiston versus a Wells Fargo moving to Okeechobee County. Why does that Wells Fargo move to Okeechobee County? And if you look, there's a supermarket that associates itself with Wells Fargo. And then when the supermarket and Wells Fargo are built, then there's 2 or 3 other offshoot, not necessarily fast food, but not necessarily cheap food either, restaurants that are associated. And now all of that adds to your tax base and how those things correlate. And I'm telling you, a huge reason why they're able to do that is on that I-70 and that 441 corridor, they can go and turn dirt right now today, hook up to a water line, hook up to a sewer line, and start generating revenue. And that's something that can't occur here. So we've got to galvanize support amongst our little fiefdoms, amongst our tribes of LaBelle, Clewiston, and Hendry County, and get on the same page with each other on that because we're missing the mark. We're missing the mark. So,
Any other comments?
None.
Thank
We
you,
need-
Ms. Simmons.
need a motion?
Yes.
We never had a motion, did we?
We now have a motion.
Just to clarify, I have one clarification, the correction on the copying fees. On page 6, there's various fees for copying. These are not application fees, but it's got copying fees in here, and a few of the items didn't jive with a previously approved board schedule of copying fees.
Right.
So, there's changes to that item 18 on page 6, and
Right.
so it would be to be consistent with the 2015 board-approved copying fee.
second.
Yes.
Motion
And
by Commissioner Swindle, second by Commissioner Turner.
the
Any further
resolution
discussion?
that you signed has those correct numbers.
Ms. Emlich, can I ask a follow-up? Oh, I'm sorry, I'll let, wait till you
You're
vote.
good.
No,
Go
go ahead
ahead.
and vote, and I'll, because it's off topic.
Off topic, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead, Mr. Swindle.
Sort of on topic, but not exactly, but just the two things that I always get questioned about is the fees and the amount, and not so much lately, but the other thing used to be time, and have not heard anything lately. No one has called and complained. So where are we with regards to said person comes in to build a home, they have their stuff done. I know it's dependent on when they get theirs done, but let's just say they come in and they have their packet complete. I've got everything here. How long can they expect to have the permit in hand so they can start?
It can take 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
And that's because of the workload.
Right.
Otherwise, it could be quicker.
Really?
But I'm not going to promise that.
Wow, I still think 2 weeks is pretty good because you hear months and months and, you know.
You got a car, you can.
Yeah, right. Commercial the same way? So if somebody wanted to come in and put up a new AutoZone.
Yeah, it's the average, it's 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more because there's some back and forth
Okay.
needed. But
On
that's
the-
for the building permits.
Right.
That's not the applications that are in planning
No,
and
no,
zoning.
that's right. The big thing is the building permits. People,
Yes.
you know, used to call and
Right.
complain about it taking so long, but I haven't had one of those in quite a while. Has anyone have one?
You're doing good.
So, yeah, kudos to
That's
staff
great.
and a good job.
I'll let
yeah.
them know.
That's right. Yeah, awesome.
All right, are we ready for the next agenda item?
Ready.
Okay, well, this is the a follow-up to the presentation on residential design standards that we provided on February 26th. The board gave us direction to get with, the contractors, and we also got with the invited contractors and realtors. We had 2 meetings, one in LaBelle and one in Clewiston, and we got input from them, and staff has also done some research and is also still conducting some research because there are some other jurisdictions that have addressed residential design standards in other counties that aren't on our table. Anyway, having said all that, I know that at the last meeting, my presentation included some extremes. I didn't mean to do it like that. It was just those are the pictures I had. But what I will tell you, though, is that some of the areas that we found support from the contractors and the realtors had to do with the roof pitch, agreeing to a 412 roof pitch. I added in there on this staff report that it would apply to gable and hip roofs because there's other roof styles. We also there was agreement about the foundation finish that you were presented at the last through the PowerPoint, where you have you can only have 16 inches of exposed block, and that you have to finish the outside with a complementary or same siding that the house is finished with. That approach was agreed to by most that attended, and also we had talked about homes that have a raised foundation. I heard agreement about providing a 8x8 porch of sorts entry, but no roof. The roof was the issue with both with all builders because it would require that overhang extended part of the roof, which adds dollars to it that they felt like they didn't think it was necessary. And also an agreement was the banding around the windows. Those were easy and part of most of what their designs are today. So they're an automatic per se. But there were other comments that I highlighted here on my staff report that were made, comments and concerns. We talked about overhangs and that the site-built homes say that home builders, I should say, say that they have at least a 12-inch overhang, but for modulars, that's not doable for them, according to them, because of how they're transported. It would be too wide to take down the road without having those special escorts. So we came up with the option of the 6-inch overhang. They would have to add a 4-inch gutter in the front. Now, this is all talking about the front elevation. And then we looked at that a couple of the realtors were talking about how on the east side in the Clewiston area that modular homes are reselling as much as site-built homes are. And they're saying because it's a lack of inventory for homes that are available to purchase, and which is different from what's happening here on the west side, especially in Port LaBelle, where we have new product that's going up, quite a lot of new product that's going up. And of course, the comment was made that we need to avoid that the modulars don't look like mobile homes. Well, and then the final comment on this list is that we need to ensure there's affordable housing can be provided. Well, when we talked about affordable housing, I'd asked the site builders, house builders, that didn't sound right, and the manufactured modular home builders, if they could give us an idea of, what's affordable for somebody that is making a moderate income and so on. And, some of the information that that was talked about was that they're getting folks into homes that are making, less than our median income, which is $42,000. And having heard some of that and not having hard facts and all that, I do know that there are folks that, maybe it's a double income, but they're still getting into homes. I mean, all the houses that are being built, somebody's buying them. And I think really what our biggest, lack of affordable housing is when you talk about low-income housing, that being where some of that is truly subsidized, and that's a whole nother discussion as opposed to what we're talking about here. And we also talked about other parts of the county when we were talking about where we were looking at applying the residential design standards. We had presented that it would be in the RG1, the general residential, the larger lots down to the smaller lots of general residential, and also in the Wheeler Estates area, because that's what the folks requested when we went through the community meetings. And anyway, that really left a lot of area in Hendry County that would not have to comply with residential design standards, i.e. additional costs to their home. And we're talking about Montour, we're talking about Harlem, we're talking about Pioneer, Felda, Ladika, and so on, and all the areas that are zoned A2. That if you look at the map, and I don't have it with me, I mean, that's a lot of area. That's probably what we're talking about is maybe 80 to 90% of our county this would not apply to. So I don't feel like we're going in the direction of pushing people out of being able to afford housing. It's just that this would be localized in areas where, one, we have, I guess the biggest concern by constituents about having a mobile home next to them. They don't want a mobile home looking product next to them. And
Mr. Chair, isn't it fair to say that it's the county trying to put standards into place or a policy into place that protects someone's largest investment in their life? Is that an overreach of a statement?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is either, but the thing I would say is, when you look at these other counties, none of them have special standards for modular housing.
None of
I
them
haven't
have
seen
special
one,
study.
the only, none.
We're not talking about modular homes, I'm talking about mobile homes.
Well, mobile homes
Well,
and
and-
modular it's really close to the same animal. There's very, very, small design differences in them. And the key there is one thing you gotta keep in mind when you're talking about modular versus mobile. It goes back to we was talking about the tax base. And the key with that is if they don't own the property, they're not paying taxes as normal as everyone else was. You look at infrastructure. So when we start looking at this, it's more than just a design issue if you're looking at it from a tax base. And it's not affordable housing. That's a different animal. Affordable
Right.
housing is government subsidized. More what we're talking about is workforce housing.
Yes.
And the difference between when you say affordable, everybody loves the ideal of that. But the ideal of it is it's not going to be what we are actually working on. And we're
Right.
working on, like you said, getting people in homes.
Right.
So, and I agree with that. We're trying to make sure that we're taking care of the constituents for sure. But then again, there's a couple of these modular homes in areas that you would not know it's a modular home.
Yeah. Well, if
There's
you-
several right in the city of LaBelle, and you really don't know they're a modular
Right.
home.
Right.
And you go in Port LaBelle, and there's some houses out there that look worse than modular homes.
That's right. That's
Right.
true.
So really, you're telling, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because in that case, well, no, you can't live here because you're going to have a modular home. So, it's to buy an $80,000 modular home, but if you build a $300,000 site-built home, then you can live here. So it's kind of to me, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Is that
We
some
talk
of-
about the homes being built in Port LaBelle. I was talking to a contractor the other day, and I believe there's a gentleman going to speak here in a few minutes, and he may be able to validate this, but I'm hearing that it's $100 to $125 a square foot for a residential home. And that's supposed to be turnkey, of course. But if that's the case, that's not really what we're talking about. That's a 1,600 square foot home. Do the math.
Yeah.
So, I know there's people getting in homes for $65,000. They got a home, and then you add the lot and Port LaBelle, Commissioner, we're in the same boat you were saying earlier. Some places out there we still don't have water and sewer.
Yes, sir.
So you're right on point as far as infrastructure. So I believe we're talking about some good things, but I believe if we don't get the infrastructure in the ground, it's hard for the builders to come in and build what we would say would be. Now they got to put a well in, they got to put a septic tank in, so whereas it could be as minimal as a hookup. So
10 to 12,000 on top of,
But the ones in Port LaBelle's trying to get where they already have the water and everything.
Right. We
Make it
again,
easy.
we got to get there.
So I'm not trying to stop the presentation, but let me ask this question. I am not against a modular home as long as the process of how that home is being implemented, it has the appearance thereof, so it doesn't hurt the values of that neighborhood. I understand there's a fine line between modular. Well, let me rephrase this. I understand I may be ignorant when I say there's a fine line between a modular and a mobile home and the construction methods of how they were put together and so on and so forth. And I can go into so on and so forth as much detail as you all would like to, but I think we all understand that. What I'm trying to make sure is that when I hear from my constituents countywide, because I don't have this issue really occurring in my neighborhood per se, in my district, but I do hear of the people in Port LaBelle, and I think that their concern is they, and in the areas that you all have highlighted in this green, in the other areas that we're talking about having these minimum design standards, that 412 pitch on the roof, obviously that gives that appearance right out the gate, and I'm happy to hear that everybody thought that was something they could all rally around. But I don't think anybody up here is saying they're against modular homes, right?
Well, you can't be against them.
Because it technically would be a state law that we would be wanting to fight, right?
It's mandatory
Okay.
for the state.
But we're asking now for those people that may be potentially implementing a modular home and or any single-family home to implement some of these design standards and make sure that as it pertains to these neighborhoods specifically, which represent, from a per capita basis, a very small percentage of the population, but a strong tax base that we want to protect, we're making sure that we're going to give our county the tools to make sure that the homes that are going into there meet those minimum design standards and have that appearance from a curbside perspective of what we want to see.
Because if you put a modular in anywhere and you just put the modular and you don't do anything else, it looks like a double-wide mobile home.
Yes, sir.
But it's not.
Yes, sir.
But if you add a carport or a porch or something to it, We've got some in town here. Got a carport, front porch, back porch.
The process how you finish the foundation,
Right.
just being
I
here.
failed,
It
I
looks
failed the
just like
quiz.
a house. Looks
I-
just like a house.
I was forced to take a quiz here in LaBelle 2 months ago when it was all going on, and I got hauled around and said, all right, which one's the site-built home, which one's modular, and I got it wrong. And
Well, the key-
the modular looked as nice as any of the homes we went by. What I really think the key is, you know, when it comes down to it, and I hesitate to say this because I'm afraid Commissioner Turner's going to run down here and hug me. It doesn't matter if I live next to a site-built home, a block home, a home made of steel, a mobile home, or what it is. But when code enforcement, you know, or whoever neglects, you know, that these folks are now living in a deplorable third world condition in and out of their home, it doesn't matter what you're living next to. That's what gives everybody the heartburn. And I think that, again, with a rejuvenation of our code enforcement, giving them some teeth, some strength, some extra boots, and to get after it and let's clean it up, I don't care what you live in. You know, you meet the standards for where you live. This should not be a discussion as long as we are doing those things as we go. Is that really the answer? I mean,
No, and part of the problem is, though, is the way they're fastened down, truthfully.
Yes, sir.
When you look at it, they shouldn't be fastened down the same way that a trailer's fastened down. I was given a bunch of literature on that, and there's a different standard for putting a modular home in than there is for a mobile home. And some of them you would have to go back and question, is that home actually a modular home, or was it set up as a mobile home? I was saying the difference between the two earlier. It wasn't a matter of fact of, I don't know the difference.
Yes, sir.
But I was given the different literature. Look at this, look at the way they're designed, look at the way they're designed to be anchored down. Look at the anchoring system that's supposed to be there, and it's not there. It's so many pounds per square foot, and it's different design things there that I can't quote them all because I looked at it 2 months ago and haven't looked back. So I'm not, the only thing I'm saying is I don't want us to get in a situation to where, we're telling people you can't live here. I mean, I know everyone has. I was sitting in the same meeting just last week actually, and I was talking to one of our colleagues from Palm Beach County. I was talking to them and one from Orlando, and both of them were saying, I said, we got a lot of people talking about tiny homes and stuff now, and they said, oh, that's amazing. Our area is blowing up with those. And I said, yeah, well, people down here, they're not really crazy about it. And they said, yeah, but that's where everyone's going. They said, most people, they don't want a big yard, they don't want this, they don't want that. And they're saying in Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade, Orlando, that's the new phenomenon. I'm old. I like a lot of property. I want to go out and sit on my back porch and drink coffee and not have everybody driving by. But, some people don't like that. I get it. But a gentleman just built just outside of town. I was out there for a ground opening the other day. You should see the facility out there. You get a pad to park your $750,000 motorhome on, and you park it next to a $250,000 slab with a pool in it. So there's a lot of ideas that's going to be coming this way. I mean, this is an area where people can come, they can live comfortably. 30 minutes, I can be in downtown Fort Myers.
Mr. Chair, I don't think it's that, to go a little bit with both of them, both commissioners said, so much of the sore eye, and the value of somebody's property when you build that particular type of home, they just don't want their value to depreciate.
Right. That's it.
So then you got to put it in a place where somebody can afford it. So to add on one or two things to keep for the outer appearance and just make sure they can afford it. I know you're trying to do a little bit of both of them, but we're not going to please everybody in what we're doing, but we just need to make sure it's affordable where they can get in, but it doesn't cause someone else's value to go down at the same time.
When you talk to all those people that either have complained or whatever, the main thing they talk about is what it looks like.
But it was before they.
It's not.
It wasn't a finished product.
It's not how.
They didn't let it get
it's
finished.
not how it's built. They don't care. It looks like a mobile home, and that's all they.
When some of them spoke the last time, it was because it wasn't a finished product.
Yeah.
So they saw it going up, but
Yeah.
they didn't wait to see what it looked like when it was completed.
But until they add to it, it still looks like a
Right.
mobile-wide mobile.
And like Wheeler Estates, you heard the same things I heard. Some of the the residents out there, they don't want them. And there's some areas that once they're, and I noticed that the other counties have certain areas they're not allowed.
Right.
So it's what we're doing is not a bad thing. We just gotta, there's a lot of good in it as well. So we just need to make sure that as we're going through this, I'm not telling you, hey, you can do this over here, Commissioner, but on next block over, you can't do this.
Right.
Well, hold on, but to that point, I do think that we need to. I do think you start talking about future land use maps and things like that. think you're talking about existing neighborhoods and the population threshold that's in those neighborhoods, and then our ability to allow for other development to occur before dealing with, a particular neighborhood. I don't think that we need to let those horses get out of the barn, so to speak, before we start dealing with all of the issues from an A to Z perspective. So, I understand this much greater now than what I did initially of what we were doing and what the impetus behind it was. I guess I am discriminating in the fact that I think it is the county's the government's job to make sure that we don't just allow anything to move into any region because, by God, this is America and this is how we do it, And I do think that we have to step on some of your abilities there because, we have zoning for a reason, and I don't want that heavy industrial farm, a half a mile from my house that is slaughtering pigs or goats, and I got to listen to that. That's not legal. And so I'm going way off on a tangent, but I'm saying that's what all of this discussion is here for,
It's compatibility.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's a much better way of summation, so.
Say, Marty, what did y'all come up with on the roof slopes is it for all the modular and the homes, are all the slopes the same on the roof?
That's what yes, we were talking about a minimum 412 pitch for a gable and a hip roof, which is what the majority of the homes that are going up now have, those types of roofs. Now, I have other challenges because it's not just those, because then we have container homes, and then we have modern architecture, the various different
Florida
things.
Florida Building Code, which you can't defy,
right,
says give me an engineered stamped document and you can live in it.
Well, yeah, which drives me crazy.
Absolutely, because you and I both know we can go to.
But yeah, different. Well, yes.
Yeah. But there's no way, Mr. Chair. I mean, there's no way that we could get in. I mean, the lawsuit that we would entail.
Well,
but that's a nightmarish situation that we're going to have to deal with.
There are some other ideas that I have, but they're half baked, and so I don't really want to spend the time. Don't laugh.
So the modular slope will be same as the site-built home?
Yes, sir, it would. But what I'd like to wrap up this discussion is to allow staff to finish some more research so that we've gathered other examples. And I'm doing that just to get ideas on what makes sense.
I would make a motion to approve with one caveat. Could we have a report that's prepared that shows, I don't know if you want to use our current inventory in-house in county or what, but everything that I've been given thus far shows that the depreciation doesn't occur. That in a modular home, you're actually going to have an appreciation.
Yes.
And that was one of my big fears because of just understanding what a constituent does to make that investment, the largest investment that you're probably going to make in your life. And so if you could add that in there, and it doesn't have to be associated with the design standards, just as a caveat, so that we have more ability to show anyone that's adverse to this discussion. I understand your fears, but we can show you in black and white numbers where that can be alleviated.
Talk about depreciation?
Yes, sir.
Right. Didn't we get one of those?
Yes.
We did. We got a great one, but I'd like to make it a matter of public record so that it's not just to us. And that can be part of the discussion that we do on the PowerPoint so that everybody can view that.
Absolutely, we can do that. And I'll plant a couple seeds, though. Some of the things that I've had some great input subsequent to these meetings, and some of the things that are required in other areas that may not be a requirement here at this, and I know aren't in all cases, but has to do with finishing the yard with sod, requiring a driveway that's has certain material that would be consistent or compatible. And I'm not saying everybody has to have an asphalt or concrete or what have you, but there are I know certain requirements in other areas that require you to have at least one tree in the front, one of those little spindly oak trees. But there are certain things that you can finish the yard with that adds to the whole look as well.
And then 25 years from now, when you have a neighborhood full of mature trees, the value that is associated with that, you can't put a price tag on that.
right.
And we've monumentally missed that mark countywide for generations now.
Yeah, it's and one of the things that goes with that is to get tighter regulations that has to do with clearing properties for development. In other words, we've always allowed them to clear for that specific, the home and their yard and so on. But not, what I'd like to avoid is what I call clear cutting the whole property. But that's a whole nother.
Well, you're talking about just landscaping.
No, only take out selected trees you have to build, and then leave the native and larger trees in place.
Because like the city, their ordinance says you build a house, you do the yard, you got to landscape, so many plants, tree like this.
Yeah.
And
so
before they will okay it, you got to landscape.
Some folks don't like trees.
Look at him, boy, he hates it. I love it. I love when Commissioner Wills gets fired up.
I love trees. My yard's full of them. I love trees, but some people don't.
Well, I hate landscaping.
When
I hate landscaping.
I'm about to build out there in Port LaBelle, go check out the property. It's going to be amazing. I'm hoping the county cleans up that mess around me that belongs to them. Just saying. But our part's going to be amazing. We're going to build a over $2 million building right next to a mobile home park. And right behind it's going to be more mobile home park, which I'm ecstatic about, because those people are going to have somewhere to go.
They need church.
Right.
Well, they need a building. And you know what? When a storm comes along, there's somewhere they can go. So,
yes.
The homes don't bother me. I could care less what your home looks like. I don't like it if it's run down. I get it. But then again, let's just go back to when I first took this position. I was sitting in my first public meeting, and they were going up one side of you and down the other about Case Road. You probably don't even remember that.
I sure do.
I finally got a belly full and said, look, she's doing her job. Some of those people still don't talk to me. It's great.
Yeah, and they don't talk to me
but
either.
The point is, that was 2.5 years ago.
I know.
And there's things that still need to be done. Speaking to what Commissioner Swindle said, before I'm worried about someone putting a dadgum tree in their yard, let's clean up some of the blight that we actually have. So,
right.
And I know going forward, I get it. Trust me, I understand the vision. But there's a lot more things that we really need to be concerned with, and so.
Yep.
I think all this is good discussion.
Yes.
And it is. We need to have we can't have these discussions unless we're sitting here. So I apologize for the people in the audience to have to be bored to death with some of this, but this is the only time we can get together and talk. So we have to have these conversations.
Well, there are some of these things we can do simultaneously. It doesn't have to be a linear
Right.
approach, and I think that's what we should be focusing on.
We do have someone, Mr. Berth, that would like to speak to this. So
Okay.
before we go too much further, Mr. Berth, would you like to come up? If you would just come up and give us your name, sir. I know I give part of it, but just for the record.
Kevin Berth, I'm the general manager for Heartland Homes. I was here a month ago. I attended both of the meetings that Margaret had put on. I have no issues with a modular sitting right beside one of our homes. I'm not sure if it holds the same value in the long term, as I believe a site-built home will last for forever. I haven't seen the interior structures and how they're built today, and I believe they are better than a regular trailer or mobile home. I think Margaret has done a good job with the meetings we've had. She's tried to find some common ground, which I attended both, was pretty tough with the groups of people that were there. And I think there's 10,000 lots out there, guys. Right? 10,000. That's just Port LaBelle. That's just Port LaBelle.
Mr. Byrne, that's that's a solid number. There's 10,000 lots.
Plus or minus 1,000. There's there's 1,000 in missed orders quadrant behind where our office is, and I think there's 9,000 to 10,000 on the south side of 80.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's plenty to be built on, and that doesn't include Benyon Village.
Yeah,
so,
that doesn't take you that far east.
Does not
brings you
include
back to
Benyon
infrastructure.
Yep.
So there's plenty there for everybody, and so we can get the rooftops rolling out here, which is what it's about. We sold 110 last year. I think I shared that with you last time. 20% of that's in Glades and 80% is in Hendry. I'm selling 15 a month right now, guys. Raising the price is not what I want to do. Obviously, normal cost increases are enough. I certainly don't want to see impact fees. I'll
Mr.
throw
Bertha.
that tidbit out there.
A clarification question, you're selling 15 a month, are you finishing 15 a month?
Well, sales are growing faster than I'm finishing them. So
Okay.
if I only sold 100 last year and I'm on pace to sell 180, there's no way I can finish them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't take them off the shelf like the modular guys can.
Right.
How long does it take you to finish one?
Start to finish, I'm running 8 months door to door. Permitting time is a little more restrictive than Margaret. Building side does great. Septic side's terrible, but that's the state, not the county. So,
Could you say that again?
the septic permitting has to be
Yeah.
completed before I can submit for the
Yeah.
building permit.
And you're saying that the Department of Health, which is a state-run
Yeah.
entity,
It will take me anywhere from another 2 to 4 weeks to get through that department before I can actually submit into the building department here, and I'm master plan. So, Mark
Yes.
literally reviews the plans, looks at the master engineering that's all been submitted once, stamps it, and says it's out the door.
State septic codes
So-
are horrific. Every contractor will concur with that.
Every county that I've worked in, I've built 9,000 homes in my career, from 100,000 to 15 million, and every one of them that has a health department relation issue behind it is always
Again,
a
if
tough
we were
matter to
doing
deal
a
with.
septic hookup, different scenario, so.
Be one less thing, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's what- with the infrastructure you said earlier, Commissioner Turner, he wouldn't be waiting on that. And
We'd
that
be
would- that
looking
would-
at
it'd
a
be
sewer
quicker for you as
hookup.
well, too, yeah.
Yeah.
What percentage out there has sewer?
The only area that I'm aware of in Port LaBelle is Laurel Oaks, of which there
It's the
are
only one.
2 lots left.
But
So-
does most of them have water, Port Bell water? Utility?
Everything has Port LaBelle water.
Okay.
Yeah, so all
So-
has city water and sewer that I'm aware of.
they all have city water and sewer.
It's city water, not sewer.
Yes, sir.
So they're doing we have septics combined with city water. So,
Yes.
from an attainable or workforce housing standpoint, I provided Margaret some of the information. She didn't go in very depth. I will tell you that, in our second meeting, another builder said I'm capable of putting a homeowner into a home who makes $28,000 a year. And Margaret's head spun and looked at me, and she said, she looked at me and mouthed, "Is that true?" And he was speaking to the group, and I said, "Absolutely, 100%. I can put 2 $8 an hour employees into a home today, depending upon their structure, their debt structure, and some other things. So I have placed someone at $28,000 into a home.
That's an FHA loan being involved though, right? Or-
That's either an FHA or a USDA.
Yeah.
So what would be the cost of the home?
The selling price of that home today is $142,900, all
You could
inclusive
put them in
turnkey.
142.
$142.
Or that's
which-
gonna be
How many square
750
foot
a
is that,
month.
just out of
It's
curiosity?
1,100 square feet. So
Mm-hmm.
where the site guys get beat up against the modulars is square foot.
No, I
Yeah.
was just curious. I
Yeah.
was wondering where I was at when I
Yeah.
said that earlier, because I was told that by
Yeah.
a local
The
contractor. so.
modulars, you're gonna get a little more square footage for the same amount of money. So there were 6 permits last year. I don't know how many were this year in Hendry. And the average value was probably close to the 140, 160 range. I think there was one over 200. So, and obviously, I think any one of us would say, okay, the $200,000 modular is fine to put next to my house, right? I think,
You're 8 months, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Byrne?
birth.
Birth.
Like the birth of a boat.
Okay. So you're 8 months from stem to stern. That modular home, how many weeks?
I would guess,
Then guess high.
including the permitting, because I have my permitting time in there, I would guess he's probably 3 to 4 months. Good.
How many inspections are you having to have occur on your site-built home that takes 8 months? How many times has Mark Lynch got to go to that place and
18
visit
to
it?
20, maybe more.
And on my modular package,
I would guess 6 to 8.
guys, we gotta have a bigger meeting with more people in the room, because there's an indiscrepancy right now that it's not making it fair for you. Let me rephrase that. It's not making it fair for the site-built home producer in our county, but we say we want that. We say we want that. And I'm going to tell you, I want to make our environment more conducive to that industry, and getting a person into a site-built home that is making $8 to $12 an hour and they can get them loaned out. They can get them into that home because home ownership is where the cradle of civilization occurs. You know, that's, to me, that's not only is it the American dream, but it's what moves the needle.
In defense of the modulars,
come on with it.
Their inspections just occurred. They occurred inside a manufactured building. They were inside a big warehouse when they got them done. If I could build them that way, I would build them that way too.
Because if anything's better on an assembly line, that's how Henry Ford started the whole process.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's faster, it's cleaner. I've got a controlled environment to work in. They don't have to worry about rain. They don't have to worry about all those different things. They don't have to worry about inspections. I get inspections 3 days a week. They get inspections every hour, right? So they can build it a lot faster than I will ever be able to touch it.
And, you know, the key there too, again, we don't want to be Lehigh.
We don't want to be Lehigh.
Have you ridden through the back roads out there lately?
Yes, scurry.
I mean, there's some amazing CBS homes out there that are garbage.
Yep.
Well, I think
Just
that
through
goes
there for
back
the last
to
3
That's
days,
why I'm
so-
saying
Commissioner
Commissioner Wills,
Swindle.
You can
and
go either
that's-
way.
No, that's why I'm saying it's not a knee-jerk reaction.
No.
It's a bigger conversation than us 5 in a vacuum
Yeah.
having it right now and talking to one contractor publicly.
I think
You
that time period on the modulars is a little bit long. I saw several within 2 months.
Might
Septic,
be.
well, in the house,
yeah.
boom, living.
It was built ready to go
It's-
on the lot when they showed up.
Exactly. But
It's
that's, you know, that's just the
it's
thing.
very fast. You know, my trade-off for that from a site-built guy is I have product completed, ready to go. And at any given time, I've got 6 to 8 of those ready to go of varying site type and style. And as long as you like the lot, you're good to go. But
And
you know,
I also get back to, Chairman, is knowing that you told us you have an X number of average of inspections that have to occur. And just looking at that whole protocol, how that plays out, what the costs associated with that, and what, I've never heard from Mark Lynch, because it's not my job to talk to Mark Lynch. That's her job and Margaret's job to talk to Mark and know, are all efficiencies being realized? And maybe there is 0 that can be cut back from that process, everybody is probably aware that the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is taking on, there's a bill out there right now that cuts the health department away from the state and goes to FDPE regionally, and I haven't really stayed out of that conversation, and I haven't engaged it either. I've been just
believe that
completely
bill is
neutral on it.
passed.
There's only
Yeah.
so much they can do.
Yes, sir. So, this is.
The inspections we go through are normal. They've
Yep.
always been there. We've
Yep.
always dealt with them.
Yep.
It's a normal occurrence, and there's probably more than 20. I think, a little bit to Commissioner Swindle, I think, the code enforcement, I think, is a little bit of what you're after, and cleaning up what's out there, because a brand new modular next to a site built, is it any different than a Wade Journey home? They were a builder out here, good builder. Again, they're at the workforce level housing, but stick built, vinyl siding, and some people said those are terrible, right? Having built 9,000, I've had Habitat build 2 doors down from me, and they're building exactly for affordable housing. Does the customer like it? No. Is it serving its purpose? The dilemma is GDC left us with a bunch of scattered lots, right? So the one asset we have, right, both the county and a bunch of landowners out there that own lots is land. It's what we've got. And how do we utilize that asset? And our best bet is to put rooftops on them.
How do we make that inventory work for us?
So that rooftops will bring ultimately what you're after, and you talked about earlier, which is your commercial. Commercial's never going to come till the rooftops are here.
Right.
Or they see the rooftops moving in a pattern that's in excess or in an elevated growth, heavy growth pattern. So, Henry County is a little bit hidden. I kind of like it a little bit. I'm trying to open that world up. So there's been some articles about what's going on out here. I got subcontractors calling me from several different counties looking for work because of whatever slight pullbacks in the market in some other areas. And I've got buyers coming from both coasts. So they're coming. They like the little quaint area. So you talk to a lot of people out of Miami, and it reminds them of the Campesino, right? The countryside in South America. They like the trees. They like the quietness. They like all that. Other people are looking for the value. We've been told our price point, entry price point, is the lowest priced home in the state of Florida, site built. I don't know if that's true. I haven't done the due diligence for it, but we've been told that. So we get calls, I target market from Orlando all the way south, and I get calls from Orlando all the way south and some beyond. So, you know.
We appreciate the information, Mr. Burth. Stick around. We hope to see you build a lot more homes.
Well,
Please don't think I'm against the site building.
I don't
The
think
one I live in
anybody
is made out of
is.
lighter.
You
So
know,
if I have a
we've
fire,
got-
I'm gonna need a home.
We've got 10,000 of them. Let's go put some rooftops on them. So.
Yes, sir.
You know, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Berth.
Ms. Storer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Not quite as tall. I'm glad you're discussing this. We share the issue because of Port LaBelle. Last night, our boardroom was packed with people that are very disgruntled about the one that's already there. I didn't bring the picture of it. I don't have one. But it was not put on a slab. It had blocks under it, and it had straps for tie down. I said if it looks like a duck and it quacks like one, it may be a duck. And this one supposedly is modular. The people are very concerned that their values will go down. And you are absolutely right about code enforcement. We've had difficulty keeping one. We have one now that came on board already certified. And that is a key to maintaining anything, whether it's site-built, modular, mobile home parks, whatever it is.
Chair.
But a couple of things that...
Commissioners, when you said we have one you mean a certified code enforcement officer?
In Glades County now.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
right. We did not have one. We were sharing one with the city of Moore Haven.
Yes, ma'am.
So, on the stem wall versus, I can't quite, raised versus a slab. My understanding is, and I'm learning this just as you are, and I'm very unlearned, I will admit, but we cannot differentiate on our permitting from a site built with a modular. Manufactured and mobile home are the same thing. Modular is totally different. It is under the controls inspected from the get-go. In our county, it only requires 2 once they're here. I don't know if you get 6 or 8. Maybe y'all have a different requirement than we do. But our building official told me there are only 2 requirements, 2 inspections here because they've been pre-inspected. When you talk about affordable housing, I think, Mr. Willis, you may remember when Sanibel Island brought in their presentation to the Regional Planning Council about affordable housing. Right. It's possible anywhere. It truly is. If they can do it in Sanibel, I think we can do it. But I don't want to do it at the risk of devaluing possibly property owners. When we have constituents turning out in numbers as we did last night, they got our attention big time. You don't have the room full that we did. It was packed. Even after the FFA people left, it was packed. But in fact, I'm anticipating a petition for a moratorium on all building out there just to stop it. And I know Mr. Schofield's a good man, and he owns like 7 more lots out there, and he owns about 25 in your county, in Port LaBelle. And he's the one that's brought this in.
Commissioner Donna Sordelong, are you saying that you've already implemented a petition?
No, I'm saying I'm anticipating
You're contemplating
one. I'm anticipating that they're going to bring it to us.
a moratorium, and there'll be a request to have a moratorium in Glades County in that particular
In that
section.
area.
So you can get your hands around things.
Right.
Yes,
Give us
ma'am.
6 months, come up with some design standards. We may want to pitch of the roof. That's a very good point that we can do. I like the longer overhangs, and I certainly like the yard. The appearance is the big thing. These people were saying, this is not what we want in our neighborhoods. I have lived in a mobile home, and it had skirting, and I kept it nice. And many of us did when we were younger. We had to start out in lesser. It was affordable housing at the time. But people that have moved out in the Port LaBelle area in Unit 102, they bought it with deed restrictions. Those have expired. They are considering going forward, creating a homeowners association and developing, again, deed restrictions. County can enforce those, but they can. That takes money for them to do. I'm not sure how we can help them do that. But I'm wondering, you may have one. Your zoning districts are different than ours. Is it possible to create a zoning district that has such the 412 roof, the landscape, the sod, the one tree, whatever it is, and then rezone that area to that zoning district so that nothing else can come in and devalue it? I don't know that. I'm not sure we can. But I really appreciate your attention, and we are having a joint meeting, and I wish it could be about more than just the water issues. If you learn more about this, or if we can have a roundtable discussion maybe at the end of that, I would like for you to consider that.
I'd like to,
Great.
Mr. Chair.
I think we should do that. That'd be good, Ms. Lyle. We can come together and that's the only time we get to talk. That'd be
Right,
perfect.
and I know Mr. Harris used to contact me, and we'd meet with Shane about road issues and drainage issues. So if there's anything, I would like us to have that opportunity when all of our boards are together to do that. Let me see if I had something else. Okay, our building inspector had said, if you add a finished yard and a porch to a raised modular, it's still going to look like a trailer. When you don't have a roof over that porch, it still looks like the trailer. And I want to protect those people, not because they're more valuable than me, but their properties are.
Wait. Mr. Chair, we had the last joint meeting I think we had, it may have been like April of 2018. I don't know, but we had a series of Hendry Glades joint meetings.
Well, we have one, is it May? You coordinated.
May 7th.
May
No, ma'am.
7th, but
That's-
that's in Okeechobee, and it includes.
Ms. Daughter, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but I'd love to debate anything because that's just my personality. But I do not want to muddy up the waters.
For that
No
water
pun
issue.
intended.
With the
Maybe
water
when I said that.
issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's plan another one then.
But let's just do one with Hendry Glades.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Let's plan one.
And I think that one of the things that I want to talk to you all about is the sharing of a special magistrate. You just mentioned that Henry County, Glades County just got your first licensed code enforcement officer.
Right, we've had
I'd,
people.
I'd love to see if y'all have any momentum for that.
Right.
I'm still trying to convince Ms. Sorrell, I'm trying to convince some of them that we need a special magistrate to deal with our code enforcement issue. And Commissioner, our chairman's on board, but some of them are lagging behind on being right on this. And so if y'all would like to maybe help us with that price point, we could move forward with that, I think, a
We know
little
we
bit
shared a
more.
building inspector for several years.
We did.
I'm sure that there's issues that we can address.
And when y'all ready to share a jail.
We're here because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to glean from you
Right.
what
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
coming forward with so it can make
That is the benefit.
our situation better as well. And we do appreciate our comrades very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Sorrell.
Susan?
Commissioner Storer mentioned everything I needed to say.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
She taught me what I knew about it.
Oh, very good. Okay, Ms. Emily, you got any more comments or anything you'd like to add to this?
What's the scary noise?
Rats.
It stopped, it's all right.
Okay.
Well, I
An
just.
alarm, but we're all good.
Yeah, it's all
I
right.
just wanted to wrap up the request staff had, and that was, to give us direction to spend a little more time with research, and then get with, have another meeting with the builders and realtors. We felt it was appropriate to invite them as well, and bring something back to you that has some recommendations, and I guess my question, though, is, at that point in time, do you want me to prepare it for public hearing or just bring it back to you for direction?
I would love to see you prepare it and then vet the mess out of it before we go to any kind of public
That's
hearing.
fine. Then we'll have another presentation, and I'll have a PowerPoint so we can look at nice pictures.
Right, yep. And I was reached out to by some of the quasi-group that you put together, and they were very appreciative of being included in that. And I think that's where the real professional, they're the ones that deal with it every day. And so we need
Yes.
to make sure that those constituents are
Right.
good with that,
Yes.
along with us.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
If
Is that
we-
okay? Is that?
So, yes, ma'am, I think that's perfect. I believe the whole board's on the same consensus there. If you would do that, put that together, let's come back and, as he said, go through it and then prepare it and move forward with it.
And I think that the May 28th meeting might be too soon. I'm not sure. Where are
Gives
we?
you a month.
Yeah, it gives you
Only 1 month at that rate.
No, we can do it in a month. May 28th, we'll come back with a presentation. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, come on down.
We'll
For the
see.
For the record, Shane Parker, Henry County Public Works Director. The
Mr. Parker, is this the GMP for Christel?
Yes, sir. I don't have it for you tonight. Christel's still working on it. They have a problem finding that. They're trying to get the gasket right for the windows to replace.
How's the overall project going?
It's going good. They're just about getting close to wrapping up the east.
So, Mr. Chair,
wing.
you feel good about it? Have you walked through it and looked at anything?
I've walked around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What they have going on is great.
Good.
Did you talk about the gaskets? Did you kind of pick Alan's brain on that? I remember about 18, 19 years ago, we redid all those windows, and there was a company, I believe, out of Belglade that done that.
Alan, they were trying to find the window manufacturer. They they couldn't find one. They were specially made windows, is what they're coming to find out. Alan got with Chris Dell. They're gonna, if they haven't already done, they're gonna pull a window off one of the balconies, and then they're have a contractor look and figure out what they got to do to get the gaskets done.
Can we go back through records and find out who did that work?
I can ask Alan too. Yeah.
If you remember, that was about 19 years ago, probably. Actually, it's probably close to 20 now. But
Mr. Chair,
we came in and we took out the windows and they put new windows in.
do we need to ask Ms. Davis and staff to look into, I mean, I don't know if there's a traditional off-the-shelf, so to speak, but it sounds like we're talking about custom-made windows.
Well, they are. They have to go back exactly what they had in there.
Well, they're not going to be new windows, just a gasket sealant on it is all they're looking at doing.
So they're gonna take an existing window down. They're gonna have a gasket either made, most likely made, or they're gonna find it that fits that, and they're gonna go back in with that window.
They're going to bring, yes, and they're going to update their GMP on that, guaranteed maximum price.
Silicone.
So,
That's what they're gonna do.
And it's because it's a historical site, so you have to model the same way it was.
Are they gonna do anything on the inside? The east stairwell of the historic piece, there's a plaster popping off pretty bad and stuff
Well, they're
there
gonna-
from the moisture.
two things.
West
This
side, I'm sorry.
This was for the non-historic.
Non-historic side,
Right.
this side over here.
But
Okay.
for the historic side, they are going to do some stuff.
On the inside?
That'll be a future GMP coming up.
Okay.
But for the non-historic, they are going to do the entryways where the metal's bleeding through,
Okay.
the stucco's messed
Okay.
up.
Got it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We talked about a number of issues that were throughout the entire building here. Did you ever get all of the constitutionals together? Did y'all have that chat?
Alan spoke with
Talk to me. He talked to me.
spoke with everyone, and him and Shane got together with the contractor, and when this is complete, it will encompass all.
It will do the.
I love you to death, and I like all of them. But my main question is I've noticed you are a taskmaster with regards to holding accountability and, making that. So have you had that conversation, and do you know how?
I did not have that conversation directly with each constitutional, but I asked Alan to do
Okay.
that, and I confirmed with him that
Great.
he did do that, and I confirmed with Shane
Yes.
that he did
Good.
that, and
Then
they
I confirmed
spoke,
back with
and
Alan.
then he confirmed back.
Okay.
And so I closed
So you
that.
think that it's moving forward in the right direction? Great.
But to be
Great.
clear, that was on the exterior portion. Then we got to go to the interior to start.
That was
doing
the
what needs-
leaky
Yep.
roof and the windows and all of those issues.
So at the end of this thing, at the end of this project, Chairman, you think that we're going to have a building? You're going to be able to give us a number. We're going to have to vet that, and it's going to have a GMP associated with a guaranteed maximum price, and then we're going to essentially button this bad boy up for generations to come.
I already think it's too high, just saying.
My man. And you hate the fact that the
I'm gonna go ahead
engineer
and
had to do
yeah,
anything.
right. Yeah, why engineer? They're going to use silicone. We're doing all that money for them to silicone these windows. Probably a little duct tape, and they're good.
You would love for them to lose money in this project.
At least break even.
Okay, just
I'm
break
okay
even.
with that.
That's all.
Bubble gum?
Do it for
Yeah.
free.
Probably more than what's there.
Do we need action on this, Mark?
There's nothing there to
Nah,
get.
you don't have, we're
Just
waiting on you to
enough.
come back, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's move on then.
All right, LaBelle
Pass the
Airport.
silicone.
LaBelle Airport supplemental joint participation agreement from DOT. They're adding $1,100,000 for the project. This will cover the construction costs from OAK, which the board approved at the prior.
So this
board
is
meeting.
that 1.1 that I see in there. That's not for total project, and it's just 172 adder. This is the 1.1 that's going to the total.
They're
adder.
adding. They're at yeah. $1,100,000 is being
I
added.
make
to
a
the
motion
project.
to approve option one to the FDOT approval and us doing our end for that STA.
And to be clear, that's going to.
We got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion?
But that includes the resolution, right?
Yes, it
Includes the
needs to include the resolution.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is supplemental task authorization number 28 with AECom for Rodeo Drive. The funding's being provided by the supplemental JPA that you just approved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Swindles. Any further discussion on this?
When they gonna do it?
As soon as we get our DOT connection permit.
When do you anticipate that'll be done, Mr. Chair?
Will it be done or when it's going to start?
Will it be done?
Probably the end of this year. They got a water line going in all the way to the jetport, to the airport.
You
For
just
the
said
future hangar.
jetport.
I know.
End of.
Wrong word.
Where the dog pounds at.
Got him all scared.
LaBelle Airport.
LaBelle Airport. That's it.
So you think we're 8 months out?
Yes, sir.
For government, that's a good time.
I think they're going to go pretty fast on when they start. It's going to be an easy
They
project.
got a straight shot.
They are. We're going to shut Rodeo Drive down and have them come through the rodeo grounds.
The government's not doing anything. The government's approving money.
Here's government.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Lapp, you have anything?
Just one briefing item. A few meetings ago, you asked about, or Ms. Butler brought up, bringing more tax deeds applications forward and be put in Port LaBelle where there's so many with delinquent taxes. And so just wanted to let you know, I haven't brought it to you yet because it's not ready yet. The reason is we're prioritizing it. We're working on it, and we have a consultant, Plus does. Dr. Capice is the consultant for Plus, and he and his interns are putting together a prioritization. You know, there's literally thousands of these tax certificates that we hold, and we want to be smart about which ones we apply for and not just apply for ones that are going to not get purchased and then have to wait 3 years for them to escheat. So we're going to pick ones that we think and hope will sell, or best case scenario, the owner pays off the taxes. It just comes in and pays off their bill because they know they're going to auction and they don't want to lose their property. Failing that, it gets purchased at auction. So anyway, we're working on it, and we will have that back to you as soon as possible. It involves some database work by Dr. Capice.
And nothing new on Banyan Village.
In what way?
Everything's the same.
I don't know anything about anything.
Well, you don't know anything about Banyan
We
Village?
haven't been, as far as the tax deeds, we're working on the other tax deeds first. We haven't started. the
You
big-
got 1,400 sitting there.
Right, but if you want to prioritize, I mean, you literally have thousands of parcels with delinquent taxes, and
You're not counting those.
Well, no, we are counting those, but I'm just saying, you apply $250, it's $250 or $200 per parcel that you apply for. And so,
You just want
we're focusing on units 1 through 9 because those are selling.
Yes.
Those Banyan Village ones are going to be a tougher nut to crack because the delinquent tax amount exceeds.
Are they gonna run that up so high where nobody can buy them in Banyan Village?
Sorry.
They're gonna have, is it gonna be so high where nobody ever wanna?
Yeah,
buy
that's probably going to be the case. The tax bill on those, you got, many of the parcels have 7 years of delinquent taxes. So, in some of those, you added up a couple $100 per year at least, maybe what's more than that? More than that with the plus assessment. So we're talking thousands of dollars in taxes for parcels that are valued at
Nothing.
and they're not selling, they're not moving.
Right.
So, and not that we're giving up on those, not that we're going to never do anything with those, but we're picking the more fruitful ones first, which is units 1 through 9.
Picking the lower fruit first.
Okay.
Then we'll get the ladders out for the rest of it.
The clerk has reported that a lot of them are being paid by the owner as soon as they apply.
As soon as they get the letter from us and the sheriff serves them, they pay their taxes.
Well, we need to get the letters out.
Well, I got to make the application first.
Well, you need to work harder.
I'm almost caught up with tax collector.
Is it Mark's fault?
No, we're still waiting on owner encumbrance reports.
Okay.
Not
Is that it,
Mark's
Mr. Lapp? Thank you, Mr. Lapp. Anyone in the public like to address the board? Said heck no. Business by district, Mr. Swindle.
So, stemming off from the Wheeler Estate conversation and the great work that Ms. Imlage has done there, and through conversations with Ms. Imlage and the folks from Central County, to be clear, what happened was, and please correct me if I'm wrong,
She applied and received a DEO grant to do that comprehensive land use study that the Wheeler Estate is now benefiting from. And a handful of years ago, the county, and I think this predates at least me and most of us, that the county was working on one and committed to do one for Central County, and it never happened for whatever reason, and nor does it matter, I think, today. But we were rolling back up on that grant cycle again, and I would like to give, my understanding is we need a board motion, and so would everybody be okay if I moved a motion to give Ms. Emledge direction to pursue that DEO grant to fund the comprehensive land use study for Central County?
I will support it as long as the second one will be in Pioneer.
Can you do two at once?
No.
You cannot?
No, one a year.
One a year? Well, I move Central County first.
Second.
What part of the county you said?
Central County, Monterey.
And
the reason, Mr.
You didn't
Chair-
tell them we already had Felder on the list?
She can't do
Oh.
that.
I'm just kidding, Commissioner.
Now, if you would like, we could spend some of those general fund dollars for a study and not, rely on a grant. And but let's we'll submit for this round of DEO's planning technical assistance grants. We'll see what happens there. But I'm not adverse to looking at, starting another planning study either. And
Mr. Chair, I'm sure you remember when Mr. Cotero was having a roundtable discussions, and I think you may have continued a little bit of that in Pioneer. But it's very difficult to get that momentum without I think having a couple, and it's my opinion, could be completely wrong, but without having a couple success stories to be able to hang your hat on. And so for me, I think Wheeler Estates, we're fixing to all celebrate that as a victory. And now I think, if we're able to apply and see it Central County in the Montour community, which in my opinion is one of the big potential areas of fallout if we're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Central County has experienced some very radical changes in the last year or so, and I think that we need to try to help them with assistance. And if you're hearing from your constituency base that this is something that they're requesting, I think that it's one of the more unstable, large population centers in our community. So I'd like to see that energy be poured into Montura's community quickly. That has a direct effect on the Flaghole community right now, Ladika as well. And I think that it becomes our second, victory in this discussion. And now you have, you're going to learn every time you do this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can move right into another area. And I'll just have to
Right.
arm wrestle Commissioner Wills before he does Felder.
Right. Well, Commissioner Wills, Felda already had a study and has a special overlay in the comp plan. There is some follow-up that needs to occur regarding, they wanted to have it was a access management plan along 29. That was never done, but that's something that can be done on the side with them while we're doing Montour if we needed to. But, I don't want to create any infighting here about what goes first, but
Absolutely not.
As long as you pave
As long as
roads
we're
in his
moving forward,
district,
we're good.
get sidewalks built, and the rest of us are
I
good.
started off, don't worry about it.
okay. All right, but Montour is going to be a lot more involved than Wheeler Estates, and I know that we started up some conversations with them when I first got here, and I was meeting with, Myra and I were both meeting with the CCOM group, and they were really thirsty for some type of comprehensive planning. And we got a lot of pushback, though, from the other folks that are involved in the community. And we didn't have cooperation from the district either. So
You did not have any?
We did not have cooperation from the district. So that's something that's going to be important
And so, Mr.
for
Chair,
this to be
yeah,
successful.
but Commissioner Swindle, you're amenable to the fact that if you get that pushback again, we're just going to roll it right on over, right?
So I spoke to their chairman today, and
Yeah.
he said that they, as a board, had voted to approve and wanted this, and it all got dropped. And he says, the pushback was through some of that rough era and rough time. He says, as far as he knows today, and they're going to bring it up at their meeting tomorrow night and make sure that it's amicable to them and they all want to move forward. And if not, then yeah.
Are they still talking about special district?
It's always a conversation about how they can morph into
Getting rid of it?
Well, either more control so they can have more in-house control, or or less control so that they have a little bit better, county and other type government influence to help keep reined in. So it's all over.
They would
the
love to
place.
secede from the union, wouldn't they? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Once you
For the
get
most
in there,
part.
though, you can't get out.
That's right. That's right.
We've already been through that.
If you are thinking about if the district isn't going to support this and you're saying rolled over to another area, I need to know what that is before I submit for the.
We'll know tomorrow night.
When is your timeline?
Soon.
I don't have the date yet, but it's usually by the end of May. So it's pretty close here.
They'll
We
know
don't-
tomorrow. They got to meet tomorrow night, and he's
Okay.
supposed to bring it up to me. If they're not on board with it, then
Right, so-
No, I just moved
absolutely.
to Pioneer next. I mean, we need to keep going.
So
forward.
if
It's
that's
very
the case,
productive.
your direction should be specific, that if it doesn't work with the
Montura 1, Pioneer
Montour,
2.
that then I just go ahead and apply for it for
Yep.
Pioneer.
That would be wonderful.
What was I gonna say?
Finish Commissioner
Oh.
Harris's sidewalk.
Plan? Comprehensive land use.
I don't need
All
that.
these roads are paved. Ditches
Okay.
All those
cleaned,
roads are paved. He doesn't even need a
brand new
road paved
signs.
anymore.
So is that my direction?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can I sit
ma'am.
down now?
Yep, you're doing great.
Thank
Do we need to vote on that? Need a motion?
I think it needs a motion. I just-
No motion, you're doing it.
I don't
You're
know
just doing
unless
it.
I don't know what their grant application says,
You
if it
already
requires
made
an
a
endorsement
and
of the
second.
commission, I
You
don't know.
We'll have 2 meetings before the month of May is
Yeah.
We
over.
can vote on them. All those in
Right.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Great job.
Okay, so that'll be in the meeting minutes.
The only other thing that I had was, I just had my nose buried in some other arenas, and I have paid less attention to the legislative wherewithal of where we are. I know that we had a couple of things that were sticking, is there an update on where we are? Does anybody, I've not spoke or heard from any lobbyists or anything?
I don't have, Emily, I don't know if you've heard anything as of this week, but as of last week, they were in the Senate budget, and they were still in there at the 100,000 and 100,000, and then I think the 709.
Okay.
We did get a request for information. Shane was working on that, and I think we submitted that yesterday.
On the bridge? Both?
Right, and so that was good, that they're asking questions, but we don't have any feedback as to why, and if that means that they're thinking about maybe allocating more dollars. We hope that's what they're doing, but we don't.
Awesome, okay. If y'all hear things, please just keep it in the loop, so I'll.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
what do we anticipate as a board that we're gonna recognize as success? You know what I mean? If we get $100,000, or let's just say Fort Deneau Bridge gets $350,000. You know,
That's all.
Will that get us anywhere?
$350,000 will get you a really nice discussion with an engineering firm.
Right,
as it
exactly.
relates
So,
to Fort Deneau Bridge.
so the short answer, it won't get us where we need to be, but I'm telling you again.
Do we
I'll-
need to be?
Yeah.
No,
right.
sir.
No, not even
No,
close.
that's like saying if we're trying to fly to the moon.
Yeah, we got
we-
$350,000
we'll get to Belle Glade.
there. Right. And again, I go back to, for 5 years that I can account for, not a dime has legislatively come into this county. So I would like to see a win, but I'd like for it to be a significant win that we could actually have something tangible that moves the county forward.
Yes, sir.
That's my personal take on it.
Well, you got to give the new governor a chance. 'Cause
Okay.
Every one of them's different.
I agree.
When Bush was there, we got
Yeah,
money, then next.
I'm not opposed to that, but at the end of the day, we live here and we answer here, And
But Commissioner Harris, if you could finish that, please. When Bush was here, we got stuff, and then what happened?
Then when your boy got in, Scott, we didn't get nothing.
Okay, what about the guy Chris in between that? Was that your boy or my boy?
That's your boy.
Okay.
your boy too?
So my boy is Scott and my boy is Chris. Was Chris my boy when he was a Republican and a Democrat?
Democrat.
Just, okay, but Scott, the ultra Republican, is my boy again. Okay, I'm just making sure. I'm just clarifying.
Remember now.
Yes, sir, I'm listening.
You're a Trump man, too.
I'm a Trump man too, okay.
Are we gonna wait to see if we get anything to see whose boy DeSantis is?
He's the only.
Is
Democrat-
DeSantis my boy
Yeah,
too?
are we gonna wait to see what we get first?
He's the only.
Wait, if DeSantis hooks us up, it's his boy.
Right, yeah.
He's the only Democrat voted for Trump.
So my feelings are is that I'm concerned that we're racing down the path of the veto pen again, and we're not going to have anything to show for. And even if we do, I mean, I know it sounds horrible, but I mean, if all of our asks were granted today. That's a $900,000 hit, I believe. Is that incorrect? Or is there some other things that I don't know about? Right? It'd be 700 for Fort Deneau, 100 and 100. 790, and then it says
So, like, if we
990.
got the 100 for the force main, would that do all of that, or is there,
not gonna
that
do
just a
anything.
drop in the bucket?
The 100,000 for the force main doesn't even get us to like a 30% completion of phase
Well,
2.
that's what I meant. So you're stuck.
So what are we doing wrong? You know, and I've had this conversation. I've been banging my head against the wall. I talked to everyone I can. I talked to our lobbyists. I talked to our legislators. So what are we doing wrong then? What you know, how come we look around us and we see other little counties just having these huge wins, and we sit in the middle with huge issues and nothing? So do we need? What are we doing incorrectly or inadequately or incomplete that we need to do a better job of? You probably got more grip and knowledge on it than any of the professionals that we pay the money to. What do we need to do?
Because there's no one that we haven't talked to that we could speak with, you know. Now, granted, this year's to me was even a bigger red flag because of all the transition that was being experienced. I mean, the fact that you have a Secretary of DEP who would be him and or his staff would be the people that were approving, you know, that force main money, and then out there, you know, his main person is now the executive director of South Florida Water Management District. I don't know where all their other, you know, underlings went, but you know, their number ones and number twos. I don't know where they all have fallen, but I don't think that's I don't think that's your job or my job per se. I think that we hired a firm to do that. We had an assessment process, and I just, you know, I guess it was to be rephrased. It's the second firm that we've hired now to do that, and our success, our run at it has been very limited, you know, to say the least. I don't know where we get lost in the shuffle. I can't answer that, Commissioner. But I will tell you, I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall as well. I mean, to see us work so hard behind the backgrounds and to have as much, I want to say that the rodeo grounds was funded as much as $500,000 at one point, and then that hit Governor Scott's veto pen. You know, I can't remember what the number was that we had allocated towards the force main, but then that hit the governor's veto pen, you know, as well. And I remember that. You know, I remember when that made the turkey list, boy, it got struck. And that, to me, that was a complete political football. But then when you go and you meet with DEP and you meet with his chief of staff, and he says to us very poignantly, you know, listen, I could have gave you a check for $20 million. The fact is, you don't have all of your ducks in a row to turn dirt for 2 years if I gave you that check. So to complete that project, so guess what we did? We checked off a couple boxes to make sure now you struck us a real check, we'll turn dirt. Well, hold on. What's the excuse now? You know? And so I don't know. I'm at my wit's end on it a little bit, and there's only so many times that there can be, in my opinion, the excuse of, well, this came up, so that's why y'all's requests were circumvented. And so
This year's going to be new staff.
Yeah, you know, this year it'll be new staff. I
What
anticipate.
happens?
Yeah. So
Ms. Bird?
Well, went to the circuit court meeting this past week, and they basically was talking about the CBD oil that our children are using and how it's damaging their brains. So it's be interesting to know what the school board input is on that. We're getting a lot of kids at CYDA for that. The other thing is that they do have the Restore Justice with our youth that's been working pretty good, and they also have some programs within the programs, mental health programs, to help them. So that's something new that they have not done. The other thing is I want to make sure I invite everybody out to Brown Sugar. Hopefully Carson will be on his horse and we'll be in putt-putt.
I got a truck. I got a truck ready.
We're going to be in putt-putt. We're going to be in putt-putt. So just want to make sure I invite everybody out to Brown Sugar. Thanking the Sheriff's Department for all their efforts, trying to make sure our ducks are in a row, working with us. One of the things I want to bring up is a young man named Gary Allen made a nice donation. Some people know him as Lost Child, LC Lost Child. Carson know him as Gary, but to help with preventing crime in the black community, we'll do a write-up about that. The other thing is that thank the staff for the sign change. Emily's doing a write-up about that, and we'll post that. U.S. Sugar waiting on their write-up, some things that they've done in the community. So just want to be thankful for the things that Jennifer and the staff have worked hard for the Harlem area. I want you to know we appreciate it very much.
You gonna let us know when and where to meet for the parade?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You will.
Same place?
Yeah, same place, but
What
I'll
time?
give you the time.
Okay,
I'll
all
give you
right.
the time.
Anyway, I guess y'all know the chairman of the county commission in Lee County passed away.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if y'all knew him or not.
Who?
Mr. Kiker.
Kiker, County Commission
When did that
chairman.
happen?
Last night.
I did not know that.
Also, I'm
Great
sorry.
man.
Yeah, good guy. He represented the beach area and all that area.
He was the mayor of the city of Fort Myers Beach for a while.
Yeah, good guy.
Sad to hear.
Awesome.
And Commissioner Swindle had an article in Sunday paper I read. It was very impressive. Good job on that.
Thank you, thank you.
Everything else is running good in my district.
We'll back up a little bit.
Back up, thank you for bringing that to the attention. Ms. Maud Lee from Palm Beach County, she was a former county commissioner. They laid her to rest today. She was the first Afro-American that was voted in Palm Beach County. She actually came to my husband, and they laid her to rest today. We did the viewing yesterday, but he actually went to the service, so my heart go out to the family. Most people would know them as the John Polite out of Moorhaven. A lot of them know him, so, but they laid her to rest today.
Mr. Turner?
In our last meeting in February, we had, the sheriff asked for, the 177 towards that overall DCF request. Do you remember that? Have we heard how that's moving in the legislature at all?
I spoke to him a week or so ago, and he said it did not look good for our
Not look
county.
good that they
Right.
would be absorbing that into their budget?
Right, that they were gonna make the transition.
Okay.
Right, now that was the last I heard, so.
Well, we also had a couple of questions though with regards to, I don't remember the acronym, but it was basically the child investigators. How many there were total in Glades or Hendry?
Yeah.
Are they split? What's their total budget? Could we get those questions asked? Okay.
The last I knew was from our lobbyist that it had not gone anywhere from the legislative request. Commissioner Swindle actually reached out to some folks and found out that there were 8.
Four. That was a low number.
Oh,
I just called the local DCF rep that we have.
there were 4, and I'm sorry, the sheriff's office was saying there was 8, I think is
They
where I
needed
was.
8, they wanted 8
Wanted 8.
investigators.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so, Mr. Nelson can
I
answer.
can try to help you out with that.
Okay.
Kevin Nelson, representing Sheriff Whidden. Where it stands right now, today, they were going into appropriations. We were asked, what we were told was there's not going to be any new money. We need startup money to get the program started, plus their budget, which we got 2 different budgets from the DCF. They actually have 6 budgeted for Hendry Glades. The appropriations now is going to look at just moving those existing funds over to the sheriffs. There's 3 sheriffs that are trying to do this.
3 sheriffs out of 67?
There's already 7.
Okay.
Doing it. There's 3 more trying to get in this year, including us.
I got you.
Waukulla and Gadsden County also. Walton County went in last year, and they're taking care of the DCF responsibilities. So we won't know anything until the next couple of days whether or not they're going to go ahead and move that money over. The positions he was asking for, he was not asking for them right now, is what we're going to be requesting in the new budget.
Got you.
2 detectives will be assigned to that. That'll actually be a little bit better than what most of the sheriffs are doing because they have detectives that do all crimes. We want 2 detectives dedicated to the children. And
Chief Deputy, who do y'all have lobbying on this on your behalf?
Barney Bishop and Associates.
So y'all have a team queued up that is monitoring this for you?
Right, and they're doing all 3 sheriffs.
Okay.
We learned about him. We've been working on this for years. And then we learned about the lobbyist that was working for the other 2 sheriffs, and he asked if we wanted to get in on it. So figured might as well. He's already talking to him. And,
But you can't do it with the budget that the state gives y'all? Is that what you're saying?
It'll be tight. The first year is gonna be real tight because, we don't have the startup costs. But by the time we get the contract signed, get people hired, they're going to have to go through a law enforcement background, which is more stringent than what the state does. We've got some pretty stringent rules already set up. But by the time we get all that done, we'll probably be in closer to September. So we're looking at maybe 9 months we can get through with their current budget that they've publicized to us. But then next year we'll have to ask the legislature for additional monies.
Before you leave, so Mr. Chair, would y'all like, I don't know what that DCF budget looks like. Would y'all like to see that? Would y'all like to, do you think that would be pertinent to us knowing?
That was like $1.2 million.
It was.
That would include the startup costs.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna do some things a little different and maybe
Right.
bring some of that down if they move that money over to the sheriff's budget.
And then I'd love to see exactly what the head count of personnel is involved, you know?
If we can move forward, I'd say absolutely, but legislatively, we need some direction because the last I heard, it was kind of a moot point no matter what. So
Yes, sir.
Look at it all you want, but staying where it is was kind of what I was picking up.
And the point I'm making is, Commissioner Swindle, I want to know what those numbers are. You know, fundamentally, that's something that we don't have in our budget today, right?
Right.
That's a state-ran organization.
Correct.
Funded and everything. So now, if that goes into the sheriff's budget, and that's a
I shouldn't have said into the sheriff's budget. It's actually gonna be a separate budget.
But it'd be controlled by the sheriff.
Right.
Dedicated for those activities and those investigations.
Yes.
But the problem is, okay,
And so allocating that, knowing how many FTEs exist, how many would versus how many dollars are allocated, and knowing that is such a lion's share of the total number anyway, you know, where are we at? I just like facts.
but then,
Right. It's a moving target.
Yep.
It really is. And, you know, it depends on how you ask, what number you get.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where to me, I mean, that's the whole hocus pocus of this process that drives me absolutely bat crazy because, you know, it shouldn't be that way. The fact is there is a finite number, and it's, you know, it's depending on who you talk to. If the moon was full versus the wind coming out of the west, it was X versus Z, you know, and so, yeah.
Yeah. But we're prepared and ready to move on it as soon as they give us the word.
Mr. Chair, I had one other question too, and it's just ironic. The chief deputy was here. I asked him. I sent you an email. Is it legal to get those citation reports and all that stuff for a particular community?
Sure, we can give you that.
Because that is something that the Pioneer community has been requesting, and I do think that as it relates to that ATV usage or side by sides, if we're even contemplating changing that, or not necessarily going against what the state has recommended or what they've pushed out there, but changing the ordinance that's on the books today as it relates to Hendry County, I want to know if this is a legitimate issue. Have y'all written 12 citations or have you written 1,200 citations? Where's the happy medium and what are the numbers that are in there finite? Because if it's 12, do we really need to go through the process because of unintended consequences that could just punch us right in the jaw and you have every human from Miami-Dade and Broward coming up on one Saturday? Because it's not going to just be an explosion of people on the 4th of July or Labor Day or Memorial Day then. It's going to be an explosion of people every weekend. Because the moment that gets posted to social media that you can legally ride your four-wheeler in Hendry County, the game over. Game over.
You mean in Henry County or Pioneer?
Well, is it? Because here's the other aspect of that question. You live in Weston, right? Or you live in Miami, in Sweetwater, and you hear that you can legally ride in Pioneer. Do you know if Pioneer stops at the blocks? At Wellington and Lexington? Does it stop at Ladika? Does it stop at the juice plant? Do you even care? You know? Do you know that Highway 80 is the dividing line between Hendry and Glades? So I think all those things are just unintended consequences that we have to be cognizant of as we look at potentially changing this.
Can we be clear about something as well? Because I've been getting quite a few calls about this too.
Yes, sir.
And Sheriff made this clear to me. No, you made this clear to me. Where's the only legal place in Hendry County to ride a four-wheeler or side-by-side?
Today, right now, because of this man's email to me, today, right now, is on private land. With permission.
That's right. That's right. Now,
that's a major caveat.
Now, that's huge. Now, Pioneer, you're on the side of the road, not on the paved road. You're off the side of the paved road. That's not acceptable, right? public property. Now, outside of Woodland and Pinecone,
Yeah.
is that private or is it public?
Because Central County owns it?
That's right, that's my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing with Mannion Village, though. Most of
Yeah.
that's private property, but everyone come up, they have no idea who owns it, they ride on it. Go out there and look, there's holes deep enough to bury a
That's right.
pickup in. So
How they get there?
they just
They got there from
They
side by
trailer
side,
them in,
drive around.
They trailer them in and they ride, but it's
And-
private property.
And to me, if you want to hammer on the sheriff for not doing his job, then you're being ignorant right now. And I'm not saying
No,
any
no,
of us
no,
are
no,
saying
no,
that,
no, no.
because it's just a question of resources versus where you need to devote them.
Right.
So and that's why I'm just wanting to see how many citations are we actually issuing to a particular area, and is this something that we need to go through a full scale, ordinance removal, changing it out, creating a HOA, or the potential thereof, and looking at that.
I don't know that you're going to get a fair representation, and please help me if I'm incorrect in this, because in my conversation with the law enforcement professionals, look, and you hit the nail on the head, are they going to be able to devote any resources to stopping? Let's just pick Montura.
Yeah.
Because they can't, and so they typically even don't unless Central County or I would call or someone would call and say, man, on this block or in this area, they're just tearing it up. I'm tired of it. And so then they go in. So said, officer can be there, and even if he sees it, I think that kind of the understanding is they have not, on average, just been pulling every one of them and stopping because they simply can't.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
A lot of them can't catch them.
You just can't. You're not going to catch them.
You ain't going to.
So I think looking at the number of citations is going to be way skewed. It's not going to give you a true synopsis of what you're asking to see, because they probably would write more if they could.
Well, what I would just say to that, Commissioner, is that anecdotally I'm being told that these guys in the green and white vehicles, from some percentage of the constituency, are hateful and trying to write everybody a ticket, and they've given out a ton of citations.
No.
I don't agree with that statement.
I don't either.
And I think that, it's kind of like the letter of the law versus, how you interpret it. And, there's what is black and white, and then there's your ability to apply black and white. And we're not talking about somebody driving down Henry Isles Boulevard at 65 miles an hour. We're talking about, Doc and Judy Weaver taking their side by side and going down Panama and going down and looking at the old dump and then riding around Christopher Lane. I don't think a deputy in his right mind is going to give Doc and Judy a ticket for doing that, because Doc and Judy ain't going to be doing Mach 1 with their hair on fire. However, if some jackleg is taking that and straightening it out and running as hard as he can through the Mannheimer project, or what, I don't know, the Mannheimer Foundation out there, and running right through a fence, and that has occurred, and or snatching a pump off of Eagle Farms' outfall or something, then you have to start engaging in activities to curtail that. And that's where Charles White and his horde of people get involved, and it's an unfortunate reality. But I think that y'all are trying. I think y'all are trying to play, happy medium in this and be logical about it. So I would just love to see what the data shows.
We issued a lot of written warnings also.
Yes, sir. And those are things that can be shown as well, right?
I do believe that we're going to have to come to a stance shortly.
Yes, sir.
Where we either take our grounds and say, if you see them, you got to write them a ticket, or we're going to have to change our minds and come up with a different approach, because I think the communities are fixing to push us into it.
I do as well.
You're going to overcomplicate it if you tell them you can ride on a dirt road. Go ahead. So, we need to
Say that again, Chairman?
If we overcomplicate it, because what I was told was right now they can't ride on a dirt road as long as it has to be privately owned property and they have to have permission. But what they're trying to say, the only leg we have to stand on, we can say, okay, you can ride on a dirt road, but not a paved road, is what I was told. If we change it.
If we change this,
But if we change
lower the
it,
speed limit.
Now we're opening a complete can of worms.
That's right.
Because they're going like you said, they're going to rip down there a mile of the dirt road. They're going to be sitting on the dirt road.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's
They're
the thing. I mean,
destroyed.
people.
I
That's
get it. I love to ride side by side.
Yes, sir.
I do it on my property. I go down to the national park and ride. I'm not tearing up people's property, and that's the problem. They're riding. Doc and Judy ain't gonna be out there at 2:00 at night with no muffler.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chair, that's the rub. That's the rub. And now trying to get everybody in a room, and we had a great meeting. I'm telling you, it was impressive. I bet it was 150 people strong, and everybody, in my opinion, was very much in favor of being able to ride their ATV or their side by side. But now I go back to my original statement. I think if you lowered the speed limit on the dirt roads and changed the ordinance so that they could ride on a dirt road that's publicly owned, there's no way you can discriminate that only can happen for Henry County residents or Pioneer community residents. And now I'm telling you, the unintended consequences are not hundreds. It's thousands of people. It's the Redneck Yacht Club Pioneer.
Might be thousands now.
Free.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so,
And not just the liability.
yes, ma'am. That's exactly
Watch
right.
them on the weekends now. Just coming by your house.
Yeah,
street,
especially that you can
truck,
see there's a,
trailer, and they're all
you
coming.
know, that disposable income is up. You can see it. Yep. So thank you, Mr. Chief.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
The only other quick question I had, obviously, we're gonna have a discussion about the fire. I was gonna ask about the fire truck north of the river, and I wanted to kind of dovetail that into fire truck, coverage countywide, what those costs are and everything. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, code enforcement, we didn't have anything in this packet with regards to approving, any liens that had been presented. And I didn't know if there was just none out there that we had looked at, or,
So was it the last meeting, I believe it was, that we approved all of the liens where we did the cleanup over the last 5 years?
Okay.
Meeting before last? Okay.
okay.
And so there's no.
Yeah, it was the meeting before, the last meeting in LaBelle.
Right.
So that's it. So that lien process, as you all view it, is clean now. So is it possible that you could, because there was a report that we had that you sent to all of us, and I keep referencing that $141,000 number. What is the status of that backlog? How does that play out? What is that number today that we think, and then lowering interest and such?
You got the report that I sent out with all the color coding?
I don't think I got that.
Okay, so I sent that out, and if you can't find it, I'll resend it.
Okay.
I sent it to all the board members, and what we did is we color coded that 141.
Oh,
We have a
okay.
list.
I don't have. I don't say
1,000.
so. I missed a week somewhere.
We said, okay, this is what we recorded, this is what you just recorded, this is what was 5 years old, this is what was satisfied, this is where properties changed hands.
Okay, I'll
And
look
so
into
we
this.
basically reconciled that for you.
Okay.
So if you have any other questions, just let me know.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then the last thing, other than, condolences to the Kiker family, and Lee County, because that was a huge leader over that way and a huge ally to so many people in Southwest Florida. Thank you all for putting the meeting together around the lake. May 7th, we're gonna meet. I don't know I think y'all sent an email today or maybe yesterday that talked about some of the cities that are confirming. I know Moorhaven is confirmed, and I know Okeechobee.
Martin County has got 2 cities that have confirmed.
Great.
And I think that's all.
What about the tri-cities around Pahokee, South Bay, Belle Glade? Do they have anybody?
No, but I did
Is
get
it possible y'all could reach out to Mayor Steve Wilson? His wife is the chief of staff for Commissioner McKinley, so I think, he may already know about it and may be attending, but I think it's important that we have representation from Belle Glade, South Bay, and Pahokee, Even if it's just one of their councils, it would be important.
And then they're all asking for the agenda, so I think you've done a draft agenda, so if we can try to get that finalized. I know I've talked to Ms. Baker a couple
Okay.
times, I need to call her back later this week as well, because everybody wants the agenda, and so.
Just so y'all know, I think that our whole, in my opinion, and if y'all want to vet and have any other discussions, let's talk about it, but I think that our whole gist of that meeting needs to be, we're wanting to see, after that meeting, a resolution that is circulated through all of our respective boards and councils that says we're in opposition of a 10.5-foot lake on the low end, because right now it's 12.5, and making science drive the discussion. Because I'm telling y'all, the congressional leader that has said that lake needs to be at 10.5 foot is doing that based off of he doesn't care about the concept of shared adversity. He wants to make sure that we can store more water in the lake. He doesn't care how high we stack it and what the conditions that creates in Lake Okeechobee specific, as long as we can hold more and not send it to the Stewart Martin County area.
Do you think he could do that? He has that
I
backing to do that?
I will tell you this, when he initially started it, I do feel that there were a number of entities that were 100% behind him and a governor that was very much in favor of that. I think since then, because of a number of conversations that have occurred by a ton of people representing every aspect of the economy, from the hardline environmental protectionist to the biggest of developer to the American farmer that's around the northern and southern end of that lake, I think they've all said in lockstep, that's stupid. You know, the burner's hot and you're taking your hand and going, wow, it burns.
It'd do away with all the fishing, right?
It'd do away with so many things, and then it would, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, it's an adverse.
They say it close it down.
Yeah, so.
I'll be in Washington D.C. that week, so may I be excused?
Appreciate it. Good job. Way to show up for
So
your constituents.
just for everyone's sake, because we had 5 boards, when we did our survey, I picked dates that 3 or more of you all could attend. And so there was only one date that you all could attend. And so I knew that there was no way we were going to be able to schedule 5 counties.
There's no good time for everybody.
There was one date that all 5 counties could make it?
There was only one
just
date
us.
that all 5 of
Yeah,
you could attend, and so I knew I had to throw out at least a handful of
Yeah.
dates for everyone, and so that, just so you know, that's how that occurred.
Yeah,
and
but
I
you heard it here.
apologize.
You heard it here. You heard it here. Commissioner Swindle doesn't care about Lake Okeechobee. Everybody heard it here.
I was on it yesterday. I'll show you the pictures.
From above?
No, I was in it.
How about them apples?
In it, and you can't plane a boat outside of the Rim Canal and the channels now.
Yeah.
Only in the center.
You couldn't plane. Well, where I was, the boat wasn't plane, so we couldn't. We had to idle for a while.
All right, Mr. Turner? You good?
Good, boss man.
Okay, I really don't have a lot neither. Thank you, Shane, for the work you've done on the Fort Deneau Road. I know the topic has come up about speeders, and the Sheriff's Department's done an amazing job on Church Road. If you'd pass that along, I've told them. That they kind of vary, they go back and forth. And we've talked about the signs and whatever we can do on Fort Deneau Road. The constituents now, of course, they like the potholes. Well, they said it slowed them down, but they didn't like the potholes because it knocks the front ends out of line. But now we're getting the road paved, so it's gonna speed them back up again. Lord Jesus, you just can't win. But really, thank you for what you've done on that. I appreciate it all. Miss Emily, you've done an amazing job with the Wheeler Estates. They're gonna greatly appreciate that and all the work you've done. So you guys keep up the good work, and we'll just keep moving forward. Anybody have anything else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,